the most mysterious and sinister alchemist family, the Persirad family. These lunatics once unleashed terrifying biochemical disasters upon the land, all in their pursuit of understanding the laws of the universe and achieving divinity. Their experiments brought nothing but suffering and chaos to the people. Repulsive monsters wreaked havoc and tortured the innocent souls of the land. However, 300 years ago, this family suddenly fell into decline for unknown reasons. From then on, our protagonist, Isao Persirad, the only talented descendant of the family, swears to restore his family's glory by creating biochemical weapons that will rival the gods. Right now, his greatest experiment, the final calamity, is about to be completed after 400 days of tireless work. Isao then tells his filthy assistant to begin the final steps and to make sure the azoth cultivation fluid doesn't go below 70%. The rat known as Cheese gets pissed off when our boy calls him a filthy rodent. After that, he goes to check the readings of the experiment, and he also confirms that all vital signs are stable. As they begin to add minerals to remove impurities in the test subject, the purity of the azoth also drops in the process. The second material they add is white mercury, and it causes the azoth purity to drop down to 85%. Next, they add yellow salt to reshape the test subject's soul, further dropping the purity of azoth as well. After that, Isao tells his assistant to completely drain the azoth waste fluid and prepare to open the tank. Cheese goes ahead to pull a lever, which closes the safety valve and opens the tank. A vile fume fills the air as the tank slowly opens up. Our sinister MC begins celebrating the completion of his terrifying and greatest experiment. From the blueprint in his hands, we see that this creature looks like a demon with long legs and arms. At that moment, Isao orders his new creation to go forth and conquer the world for him. Suddenly, we see a creature with human legs in the tank, and it is revealed to be a fully fleshed out human girl. Upon seeing this, Isao freaks out, wondering what the hell he's even looking at. As he decides to go closer, Cheese warns him that direct contact with the test subject isn't in line with safety protocols. However, our boy ignores the rat, telling him to shut up. He gets closer to the girl and wonders if this form is just a disguise that the final calamity is using. Looking closer, he assumes that the final calamity is using these human features as energy sacs. However, after closer observation, he realizes that they are like the features of an ordinary human. Isao falls into despair because he can't see the left arm of the Angel of Extinction, which he transplanted into the test subject. Even the Emerald Empress's sad eye can't be found no matter how much he looks. He then checks for the heart he implanted as well, but he can hear the sound of blood being pumped. Suddenly, the ominous eyes of his test subject spark open. At that moment, Cheese warns his master to be careful, but Isao is too slow to realize what's happening. In mere seconds, Final Calamity begins to suck the blood out of our boy's neck. On the other hand, Cheese decides it's time for him to inherit the legacy of the Persirad family and has even prepared an epitaph for his master. However, Isao swears to show him a world of pain soon, which the filthy rat finds quite cruel. It turns out that our boy was quick enough to use experimental fire slug blood to save himself. A great alchemist like him could never be killed by his own experiment, and thanks to the liquid soul extract he implanted, the creature can't hurt him. For some reason, Cheese doesn't remember ever adding his liquid soul extract to Final Calamity. Back then, the filthy rodent was drunk, while his master told him to add the soul extract. As Isao leaves, Cheese gets a stupid idea to add the liquid to his cup of wine, and he goes ahead to do just that. Remembering what he did, he realizes that his life is over. Isao then orders his experiment to get off and behave herself. Suddenly, she gets very close to his face, making him feel uneasy. He then asks the girl what she's doing, and she suddenly decides to taste his flesh. Our boy is thrown into a state of panic as his experiment enjoys how he tastes. In order for things not to get worse, he pushes her off quickly and tells his filthy assistant to bring a purification spray. After that, he presses a button on the console, which locks Final Calamity back in her tank. The girl then tries to speak to her master as if begging to be released. Isao then douses himself with the purification spray to remove any forms of contamination. At that moment, he suddenly recalls that Final Calamity looks like another girl he knows. As he rushes off to search through documents in a cabinet, Cheese wonders what his master could be looking for. Our boy then finds a document containing the original body plans for Final Calamity. Looking closer, he confirms that the woman there is the original test subject for his experiment. Cheese recalls that they saved her a year ago, and at the time, she didn't have her arms and legs. However, he wonders why the woman now has blonde hair instead of purple hair. Not only that, but her personality has also changed. 1 year ago, there were a lot of people gathered in the Golden City White Queen Bank. In the vents of the bank, we see a timer counting down, and when it goes to 0, a vile gas is released into the atmosphere. Meanwhile, our boy and his assistant are in the bathroom. Cheese notes that their dragon spider toxin should have been released already. After that, they bring out their weapons from their bags and get ready to wreak havoc. Back at the bank, we see that everyone there has passed out due to the toxic fumes. As our boy walks in, the guard struggles to get up while yelling at them for trying to rob the bank, but Isao isn't interested in anything he's saying, so he shoots the guard with his toxic gun. The green liquid instantly transforms the guard into a green blob, and our boy admits that he looks much better like that. Meanwhile, a mother and her child beg for their lives as Cheese approaches them. Being a filthy rodent, he He snatches the candy from the child, causing the innocent boy to cry his heart out. After that, they bring out the closed sign for the bank and tightly lock the doors. Cheese then starts to melt the whole place with his laser gun. On the other hand, Isao sets an explosive on the bank's safe. Once it explodes, they walk into the vault filled with tons of cash. They both celebrate a job well done because they've made it big with this robbery. Moments later, they sing their hearts out while walking through the rooftops of the city. Their speakers are loud with music as they happily move with bags of cash. As Isao acknowledges his perfect heist, Cheese proposes that they head to a bar to splurge their cash and celebrate. However, our boy tells him not to try it because they have to use every penny for the final Calamity experiment. If the experiment is successful, the entire city will be theirs, and the Percherod family will have its glory restored. Once that is completed, the MC will allow his assistant to do whatever he wants. They both reveal their fantasies of wanting the mayor to pour drinks for them and to also humiliate all the city heroes. While they are filled with laughter, a loud shot pierces through the atmosphere. They quickly duck to the ground while wondering if they've been caught by the Safety Inspection Bureau. The scene then switches to one of the city heroes, Homurke, also known as the Bullet Gentleman. He slowly walks through an alley where we see the injured purple-haired lady who was used in the original experiment. Cheese complains about Homurke looking down on them, but his master tells him to listen. Homurke reveals that the woman is a member of the Hellhound unit and he asks her where their assassination list is hidden. The lady trembles in fear as the man towers over her. He then laughs at her as he recalls that her vocal cords have been removed like the rest of their members in order to maintain their secrets. As she tries to grab an item from her back, her arm gets shot immediately. Homurke can't believe that she's even trying to make a move in her situation. He looks at the ground, seeing that she's just trying to grab a teddy bear. The old man picks it up, wondering if the list is hidden inside the stuffed animal. The injured lady grabs his clothes as if begging him to let go of the teddy bear, but he smacks her head with his gun. He stomps on her head and realizes that the toy is important to her. He then returns it to her but suddenly shoots off the head, angering the lady in the process. After that, Homurke decides it's better for him to return with her corpse and receive a reward. At that moment, Izo reveals himself and calls Homurke nothing but a money-hungry old man. The old man quickly points his gun at our boy and asks who he is. Isao calmly walks into the spotlight and introduces himself as the greatest alchemist of the century. Isao then goes ahead to also introduce the filthy rodent as his assistant. Cheese corrects the MC, saying that they're equals and he should also get his name right. Suddenly, the two of them start arguing stupidly over the titles to use in Cheese's name. Feeling irritated, Homurke threatens they'll never see their mothers again if they continue interrupting him. The MC and his assistant decide to prove that they're not ones to be underestimated. They end up throwing their bags of cash towards the old man to show the results of their heist. Homurke is shocked to see so much money, but then he realizes that they are the ones who robbed the White Queen Bank. Our boy and Cheese bask in their glory as the old man realizes what they've done. Homurke calls them low-level rookies who lack self-worth because they feel the need to brag about their crimes. Although he doesn't usually kill useless rookies, he decides to make an exception for them. Surprisingly, Isao kindly asks him to shoot so he can experience the skills of the Bullet Gentleman. Homurke gladly tries to pull the trigger, but it seems to be jammed. His hands start to tremble, and he notices that his gun suddenly feels quite heavy. The old man falls to his knees as he struggles to keep his balance. He then looks at the money bags and sees toxic fumes being emitted from inside them. Isao reveals that this gas relaxes the muscles, and the old man has been inhaling it for over a minute. Struggling to breathe, Homurke asks if our boy is trying to save the woman, but the protagonist reminds him that villains such as themselves don't engage in heroic deeds. He shoots the old man with his gun while letting him know that they dislike city heroes. After that, Homurke turns into a slimy blob with a beard. Cheese feels like these heroes aren't even much as he watches the Bullet Gentleman bounce away. With that settled, he decides they should clean up and head back to base to have some fun. However, he is surprised to see Isao close to the injured woman. The MC tells him that he's observing to know how much longer the woman can survive. She is severely injured, with most of her limbs gone and her heart rate showing signs of failure. From his observation, Isao also sees that there are about 4 toxins in her bloodstream. He is both impressed and curious to know why the Inspection Bureau would use such methods on her. Meanwhile, Cheese tries to get him to forget about the lady and just head back to base. He wonders if our boy is actually thinking of saving her. However, Isao feels insulted by his words because he sees himself as the most evil villain in the city. He quickly grabs his money bag and tells his assistant that they should go quickly. Suddenly, he notices the injured woman crawling and struggling to move despite her many injuries. He tries to force himself not to pay any attention to her because it has nothing to do with him. Suddenly, lightning flashes through the sky as a heavy storm begins. The heavy rain washes through the city's trash. Isao says it'll also wash through the city's sins and blood, leaving everything forgotten. In the middle of the heavy rain, we see the injured lady still struggling to grab her torn-up teddy bear. As she crawls closer, she manages to grab it, and it gives her a bit of relief and joy. With this, she closes her eyes and happily embraces death. Suddenly, we see Isao returning to help the woman. The scene switches to the Nightmare's Nest operating room, where Cheese asks his boss if he knows what they're doing. Isao then tells him that they're simply performing an operation, but Cheese, feeling enraged, points out that they're trying to save a life. The filthy rodent wonders if his master has forgotten his goal, but Isao lets him know that he still plans to restore his family's glory. But in order to do that, they need to create Final Calamity, a bioweapon capable of destroying the world. The host subject needs to acquire all negative emotions like hate and despair, but the most important thing is that it also needs to have a trace of pure goodness deep in its soul. The protagonist says their last experiments failed because of the lack of this final piece, and the injured lady just happens to meet all these conditions. Regardless, Cheese fears the lady might die soon. Because of this, Isao tells him that they need to conduct their experiment immediately. He orders his assistant to prepare the transplant materials while he prepares the blood of the cocoon of despair. After that, we see the different demonic body parts that our boy was searching for when his experiment stepped out of its tank. With all their materials ready, they begin to create the bioweapon. Isao looks back at the picture of the experimental subject and turns over to the tank, seeing how much different she looks now. He decides to begin routine observation, cultivation, and testing the next day. When Cheese asks what he'll do if the experiment is a failure, Isao replies by saying that they'll dispose of her. Our boy vows not to keep a failure by his side. The scene switches to his room where we see different gas masks he uses and also some documents on his table. Isao lies on his bed to get a good night's rest, but the memory of his experiment tasting his flesh causes him to toss and turn. Eventually, he sits up, wondering why he's finding it so hard to sleep. After thinking for a bit, he decides to head to the lab to make sure that his test subject is still in the tank. He gets there and sees her, sadly sitting in her loneliness. However, he notices that she's trembling for some reason. He wonders if she has fears of sleeping alone at night, but he decides to brush it off since she's just an experimental subject. As he walks away, he finds it hard to shake off the sight of her trembling face. Isao lets out a heavy sigh and presses a button to open the tank. He then tells her to come out so he can give her a nice place to sleep. Our boy takes Final Calamity down to his high-risk observation area. There, we see one of his experiments, a savage dragon, raging around and waiting for the right moment to kill the MC. There's also another experiment known as Abyssal Eye that threatens to exile and torment our boy's soul. Meanwhile, Isao tells Final Calamity that she won't be scared if she stays between the two raging beasts. He then puts her in a large cage between them, but she seems even more terrified. Our boy then leaves his mad experiments to head back to sleep. Moments later, he gets back to his room feeling glad that Final Calamity won't be lonely again. After that, he plops himself on the bed to get some good sleep. Back at the high-risk zone, the dragon asks the Abyssal Eye why a human girl is being put with them. The Abyssal Eye then recalls the MC calling her the Final Calamity. The savage dragon laughs at his words, doubting that a small lady like that could actually be the terrifying Final Calamity. The experiments can't believe that our boy ended up with a human this time after his many failed experiments. Suddenly, the girl starts making loud noises while struggling to get out of her cage. The dragon tells her not to bother breaking out because of how strong the cage is. Even the Abyssal Eye's strong penetration magic can't even put a dent in the glass wall. Suddenly, Final Calamity calms herself and transforms one of her arms into the demonic implant that our boy used. The other two experiments are bewildered as they recognize the arm immediately. After that, the girl uses her arm to heat up the glass, causing it to start cracking. Looking at this, the savage dragon wonders what kind of trick she's using. Eventually, the glass completely melts, and Final Calamity is free. She looks surprised to see the melting glass and gives her demonic arm a weird look. Meanwhile, the savage dragon and the Abyssal Eye are completely blown away by this. The dragon suddenly becomes humble and begs the girl to also help him melt his cage. The Abyssal Eye offers to be her pet if she also helps him out as well. The scene switches to the MC and his assistant, who are peacefully sleeping. Suddenly, a loud alarm causes Isao to wake up. Seeing that the white crystal walls in the high-risk zone have been breached, he moves quickly to suppress his wild experiments before anything worse happens. Isao and his assistant quickly take an elevator down to the high-risk experimental zone. From the readings, Cheese tells our boy that the subjects that escaped are the dragon and the Abyssal Eye, but he also mentions that the third breach is an empty room. Upon hearing this, our boy realizes what he has done. He snatches the tab from the rat's hand and sees how the crystal wall has melted. Isao becomes very excited to see that Final Calamity manifested the transplanted arm. At the same time, Cheese demands to know how she got there in the first place. They finally arrive in the observation area, only to see the dragon and the Abyssal Eye wreaking havoc everywhere. Isao readies his weapon and lets the creatures know that they've had enough fun. The dragon and Abyssal Eye glare at him with eyes full of rage. The dragon then threatens to show our boy the consequences of keeping him locked up for so long. Instantly, Cheese whips out his laser gun and blasts the beast. Suddenly, the dragon's face is engulfed in a yellow smoke, and he wonders what they've shot him with. Isao then tells him that it's a grenade filled with over 200 spider eggs. He believes that the dragon should already know what dragon spiders are. The savage dragon quickly panics because these spiders are parasites that feed off dragonkind, dooming whichever host they find. Meanwhile, the Abyssal Eye decides to disintegrate our boy while he's distracted by the dragon. At that moment, the MC throws a grenade into the air. Before the devilish abyssal eye can react, the grenade unleashes a blinding light at it. The creature falls to the ground in pain and curses our boy for blinding its eyes. After that, our boy gives his experiments to get back in their cages while he's still being nice. However, the dragon says they'll never surrender because they have final calamity on their side. The creatures refer to her as their big sister and tell Isao that he has no chance against her. The protagonist wonders who exactly this big sister is. Suddenly, he sees final calamity standing between the other experiments. He realizes that if she also loses control, then there's going to be a huge problem. The dragon quickly mocks him for showing fear at that moment. He then tells Final Calamity to avenge them by dealing with the alchemist who locked them up for so long. With a dead expression on her face, Final Calamity slowly approaches our boy. The rat panics and asks Isao if he doesn't have an emergency protocol to subdue Final Calamity. Sadly, the MC points out that there's no protocol that can subdue it by 100%. Suddenly, she dashes towards him in the blink of an eye, causing our boy to panic. As Final Calamity throws herself at Isao, Cheese fears that the worst has happened. On the other hand, the savage dragon tells our boy to beg for mercy, and he'll consider telling his big sister to spare his life. He threatens that Final Calamity will end his life if he delays any longer. To their great surprise, they see the girl getting a taste of our boy once again. Isao struggles to push her off, and then asks if she's done, but she makes weird sounds that no one understands. The MC understands what she's trying to say and offers to move her to a better place to sleep, but he tells her to stop licking him like a dog. Meanwhile, the other experiments wonder why she didn't melt the protagonist the way she melted the white crystal walls. With an ominous look, Isao wonders how to deal with the two foolish experiments that caused his sleep to be disturbed. After settling things there, he heads back up the elevator with Final Calamity. She starts messing around with the buttons, and they tell her to stop. Back in the high-risk zone, the savage dragon complains about his ridiculous confinement suit because it affects his image as a dragon. On the other hand, the abyssal eye is suffering eternal torture with a bunch of onions in his own cage. The scene then switches to a water tank, where we see a 9-headed Hydra hatchling. The creature suddenly wakes up and is terrified to see Final Calamity staring creepily at it. She seems to be quite fascinated by the creature. Meanwhile, Isao wonders where he'll keep the girl so that she can sleep. Cheese then proposes that he should keep her in his room, but he gets angry at him for suggesting something like that. Cheese explains that Final Calamity only feels close to Isao, and it'll be the safest if he keeps her by his side. While our boy boasts about having a strong affinity for the girl, his assistant reveals that he actually drank the soul extract instead of putting it into the cultivation tank. Isao flips out on him, and the rodent explains that it's our boy's fault for giving it to him when he was drunk. While Final Calamity admires the creatures in the water tank, Isao strangles his assistant for messing up with their last insurance. Suddenly, she dives into the tank and grabs the Hydra. They try running away from her, but she's too interested in playing with them. Isao approaches her and orders her to get out quickly, but she completely ignores him, causing him to become more furious. Seeing that he's not listening to her, Isao tries to drag her out with force. The girl panics as her body gets dragged out of the tank, and the force sends our boy crashing to the ground. She ends up landing on his face, and he tells her to get off because she's too heavy. Meanwhile, his filthy assistant just laughs at him. After that, Isao orders the Calamity girl to never enter Xiaoju's water tank again. Cheese then leaves him to handle the girl while he heads off to sleep. He advises her boy to be gentle with the girl, or something terrible could happen. However, the MC only sees her as an experimental subject, and not as a soft girl. Suddenly, she starts sneezing, hinting at the fact that she may have caught a cold. Seeing how innocent and filthy she looks, Isao decides to let her have a bath first. They head to the bathroom, where the bathtub is filled with warm water for the girl's bath. Our boy starts scanning her while he tells her not to touch anything. After 3 scans, he confirms that there are no pathogens on the girl's body. Despite that, he definitely doesn't want a test subject using his bathtub. He then tells her to bathe herself once he leaves, but she seems confused by his words. Isao gets more frustrated and repeats himself slowly this time, gesturing for her to take off her clothes and enter the bath as he leaves. Luckily, she manages to understand this time around. Suddenly, she starts taking off her clothes, causing our boy to freak out. He feels quite embarrassed, but he recalls that his test subjects don't have genders. However, our boy faints as soon as he glances at her. After a while, we see him helping the Calamity girl with a shower while he wears thick, dark shades to protect his eyes. Meanwhile, she's having fun in the water. Isao then gets some shampoo and starts washing her hair. He tells her not to open her eyes so that the shampoo doesn't hurt her. After that, he tells her to tilt her head so he can rinse her off. Looking closely, he can't help but admit that her features are deceiving. After turning off the water, he tells her to dry off by herself. He refuses to take care of her even though she's the Final Calamity. Suddenly, Isao slips on a bar of soap, causing him to fall into the bathtub. The protagonist is in a lot of pain thanks to hitting his head on the edge of the tub. He regrets not taking the Calamity girl to the sterilization room, which would have been much easier. On the other hand, she looks worried about him. He suddenly realizes how close he is to her. At the same time, the rat bursts into the bathroom to show his boss the riot collar he found. Seeing the situation Isao is in, he decides to give them some privacy and shuts the door. Moments later, he comes back in and tells our boy to wear a safety suit. making Isao throw a bar of soap at him as he shuts the door. Cheese is obviously misunderstanding the situation, but he doesn't seem to care. He looks over to his former master's picture and assures her that Isao's preferences are normal. Back in the bathroom, our boy finally helps the Calamity Girl to dry off. He opens a cupboard to bring out a hairdryer. He then plugs it into the wall and helps the girl to properly dry her hair, but she seems startled by the device. Looking closer at it, she finds it similar to the guns that were used to deal with her by bullet gentlemen. As she recalls this, she starts to tremble in a cold sweat. As Isao tells her to hold still, he suddenly sees that she's no longer there. He looks around for her and wonders where she could have gone. He then sees her shadow behind the curtain, trembling in fear. Isao is getting more impatient and doesn't understand what the girl could be doing now. As he swipes the curtain open, he tells her to stop messing around, but the Calamity Girl is frightened down to her bones and shaking. The MC wonders what he could have done to make her so scared. He then realizes that it's because of the hairdryer. He figures that it reminded her of the gun used against her, and he also realizes that her brain still holds fragments of her past memories. After letting out a heavy sigh, he calls out to his test subject, and she looks up at him. She sees him holding the hairdryer, and the fear returns. She holds down her head and continues shaking like a scared dog. However, Isao then puts on the device, causing the hot air to start blowing out. The Calamity Girl looks up and sees our boy's hair being blown out. As he starts making funny faces with it, the girl's expression shifts from despair to calmness and joy. Moments later, we see her with the hairdryer, happily playing with it. 20 minutes later, she's still playing with it, and Isao regrets ever showing her that it's not harmful. With his patience growing thinner, he snatches the hairdryer and lets her know that this isn't why she was created. With a cute look, she begs our boy to give it back to her, but her charms don't work on him. He puts the hairdryer back in the cupboard and locks it with a key. He says he'll let her play with it in the future if she behaves, but for now she needs to go to bed. Feeling sad, the Calamity Girl reluctantly agrees. Isao suddenly sees himself with a bigger problem because he's trying to figure out where the girl will sleep for the night. His bed isn't an option because he has a rule to keep all his experiments away from his bed. He notices something and suddenly sees the Calamity Girl happily tucked in on his bed. He quickly tries to drag her out because she has broken his one rule. He finally gets her to the floor, but she looks very sad about it. He then lets her know that she's never allowed to be on his bed. He tells her to sleep on the floor and not to make a single noise or try to sneak out. After that, the MC puts off the lights, ready to get some sleep. However, he suddenly feels anxious that she might go berserk in the middle of the night. He looks over the bed and sees that she's peacefully asleep on the floor. Looking closely at her, he realizes that there are low chances of her going berserk. As he tries to sleep, he starts hearing noises and wonders what she's doing. Isao tells the Calamity Girl to stop moving around and go to sleep. The noise finally stops, and he now has peace. In mere seconds, the noise comes back again, and he's fed up. Just as he starts yelling at her, he sees the girl shivering severely. She seems to be in a lot of pain because of the cold, which is preventing her from getting a peaceful sleep. Meanwhile, in Cheese's room, the filthy rat is sleeping peacefully while clutching a magazine. Our protagonist comes in and finds his assistant's tastes quite disgusting. He tries to wake up the rodent, but the guy is sleeping soundly without a bother in the world. Suddenly, our boy gets an evil idea. Moments later, he brings out a stench bug and uses it to attract Cheese's attention. The bug then sprays its foul stench on the rat. The next moment, we see him throwing up because of the horrible smell. While he yells at our boy, Isao tells him that he deserves it for dumping all the trouble on him. The protagonist then asks if he has an extra blanket, and Cheese figures it's for the disaster girl. He starts teasing our boy, but the MC says he needs to keep her in good condition so that he can run tests on her. Cheese points out that he has more than enough bedding, but our boy tells him that he already has a plan for each set of his bedding. The Ouroboros set is for Monday and Sunday, while the alchemical symbols set is used on Tuesday and Wednesday. On Thursday, he uses a solid purple set, and on Friday, he whips out the Jack of Hearts bedding. As he continues explaining, Cheese tells him to stop because he already knows the rest of it. Due to this, Isao makes it clear that he doesn't have a spare blanket for the girl. Cheese then suggests that he should give the disaster girl a blanket with her own design, and Isao is blown away by his logic. The protagonist explains that the girl hasn't passed the test to be referred to as Disaster Girl, but it doesn't change the fact that Cheese has only one blanket. Isao wonders why a rat like him even needs a blanket in the first place. With no other choice, he heads to the compartments where each of his beddings is being kept. After letting out a sigh of regret, he takes out the bedding from the Saturday compartment. He heads back to his room and spreads it out for the girl, telling her to treat the blanket with care. After that, she tucks herself in and peacefully falls asleep. Meanwhile, the MC thinks of fitting her with an anti-riot collar, but right now, he's too tired to keep thinking. In the middle of the night, we suddenly see the disaster girl standing beside her master's bed. The next morning, we see a crow holding a clock. The bird drops the clock into a skull and starts acting as an alarm, yelling for Isao to wake up. Our boy regrets not turning off the alarm because he barely got enough sleep last night. He suddenly sees a hand on him and wonders what the hell is going on. The Calamity Girl breathes warm air on his ear, and he realizes this could only be one person. The MC loses his mind while wondering when she even crawled into his bed. Meanwhile, the disaster girl looks like she's having the most peaceful sleep she's ever had. Looking at how relaxed she is, Isao sees no signs of the disaster girl he even created. At that moment, Cheese bursts in, asking how his master slept, but our boy quickly covers the bed before the rat gets the wrong idea. Cheese flips out when Isao says he doesn't know where the girl is because it'll be bad if she sneaks into the high-risk zone again. The MC tells him to head over to the monitoring room first, and that he'll catch up later. As Cheese is about to leave, something catches his attention. He notices Isao covering something, and there are weird movements beneath his blanket. He points out that the blanket is moving, but our boy denies it immediately. Isao's cover is blown as the disaster girl forces her way out so she can breathe. While she catches her breath, the MC tells Cheese that she snuck up to his bed in the middle of the night. Cheese reads the situation the wrong way and tells our boy that he won't mock him for his relationship. While he teases our boy, Isao sprays him with a stench bug extract. While the rat struggles to breathe, the protagonist tells him to get ready to test the disaster girl. The scene switches to the data collection room, where Cheese tells the girl to stay still so he can get an accurate reading of her height. He then measures her to be at 171 centimeters. After that, he mocks his master for being shorter, saying he'll need to be on his tiptoes to kiss her. They move on to weight measurement, and Isao is shocked to see how light she is. After that, they move on to test her lungs, and the MC tells her to take a deep breath first. He demonstrates how she should do it and then tells her to blow into a tube. As he does it, she gets excited to see the gauge moving. Isao goes ahead to give her the tube, then she takes a really deep breath, but instead of blowing into the tube, she's holding her breath. Our boy is flustered as she grabs his face and gets ready to blow into his mouth. Isao tells her to stop, but she goes ahead with it, and they end up knocking over things on the table. With his horrible timing, Cheese walks in to know if they're done with the test, only to see our boy begging to be saved. The disaster girl is happy to be done, but she's confused when she sees that the gauge didn't move. Meanwhile, the protagonist goes to wash out his mouth, while his assistant laughs at him for getting kissed by a test subject. Isao tells him that he's talking too much and he should shut up. He blasts the rodent with water when he gets asked if the kiss was sweet. After that, our boy orders his assistant to handle the rest of the tests. Next up, they go ahead to test her flexibility and see that it's within a normal human range. Her lower body power and grip strength also fall within the normal range of a human. Looking at the results, there's no difference between her and a regular human, but Cheese suspects it's because she hasn't gone into combat mode. Isao then decides it's time for her to go into combat mode. His evil plan is to lock her in a room with the most ruthless experiment they have. Cheese flips out on the protagonist for wanting to use a very dangerous experiment for the test. He proposes they start with the weakest experiment, which is a bunny, and work their way up from there. However, Isao points out that the lab mice are the weakest test subjects. Cheese snatches his brethren, but our boy tells him that he's still of a different species than the other rodents. After that, the MC asks if a low-risk creature can really trigger the disaster girl's fighting instincts. Suddenly, she snatches it from him, and Cheese laughs at our boy for mocking his idea. Nevertheless, Isao is more eager to know how she'd handle herself in a crowded area. It turns out that the girl is cuddling the rabbit because she finds it cute. Upon seeing this, our MC loses all hope. With no other choice, he brings out a vial from his jacket and injects the rabbit with it. He tells his assistant that it's an evolution serum that'll increase the creature's mutation speed. Suddenly, the rabbit's eyes grow wide and the painful mutation begins. From a cute rabbit, it becomes a terrifying, ominous creature. The disaster girl is confused as the demonic rabbit stands tall above her. On the other hand, Isao believes that only a creature of this level can awaken the girl's combat instincts. He decides to name it the Super Savage Rabbit Beast No. 1. The beast breathes out like a steam train and slams its fists together, ready to fight. While our protagonist cheers on the fight, Cheese worries that he may have gone too far. The giant rabbit beast dashes toward the disaster girl, ready to pummel her. At that moment, Cheese decides to bet on whether she'll dodge the fist or take it head-on. He places his wager on her dodging it, while our boy believes she'll take it head-on. After that, we see the beast smashing the ground with an overwhelming force. Isao and his assistant are freaked out when they see the damage, but they wonder where the girl suddenly disappeared to. The rabbit notices something moving inside its fur, which makes it quite anxious. Suddenly, the disaster girl pops out of the beast's fur, and the rabbit falls to the ground. She then starts cuddling it, leaving the beast even more confused. Meanwhile, our alchemists are completely disappointed with the results. After that, they head down into the ultra-high-risk restricted zone. Cheese tries to warn the MC again, saying the girl might die because of this. Nevertheless, Isao believes she'll just be another failure if she ends up dying. They finally arrive in the containment area for the ultra-high-risk Subject 0. The alchemists put on their gas masks, and Cheese gives the protagonist one last chance to back out because this could make them lose everything. But our boy is determined to turn the girl into the true final calamity. Considering how many times Isao has failed, he needs this to be successful. The girl then starts patting his head as if understanding the frustration of her master. He grabs her hand and lets her know that she doesn't have the right to pity him. He then warns her about being killed if she doesn't unleash her true nature during the fight. Cheese, being a nuisance, comes and tells the MC that the girl will make a good mascot for their organization. As the scene switches, we see another girl playing with a doll that looks like Isao. Her name is Lucille, also known as the Dark Plague Beast, and she is the ultra-high-risk experiment. She hears a familiar voice calling her name, then turns around and sees Isao, who has come to see her. Lucille rushes down to the bottom of the cage, feeling really excited that her creator has come to see her. However, the protagonist tells her she's no longer the strongest experiment because he has finally created the final calamity. Upon hearing this, she rages out, refusing to believe that another experiment is stronger than her. Isao tells his assistant to bring in Final Calamity. Suddenly, she sneaks in to give her master a tight hug. Upon seeing this, Lucille grabs her cage in anger and yells at the girl to take her hands off Isao. Her threatening aura makes the Calamity girl feel scared. The protagonist then introduces her to Lucille as the strongest test subject he's ever created. He tells Lucille to defeat the Calamity girl if she wants to reclaim her title as the strongest experiment. Lucille's anger causes her to bleed as she forcefully bites her lips. Suddenly, she gives an evil smile and asks our boy to stay with her for an entire day if she wins, and he agrees. She pushes it by asking to cuddle while he sleeps, but he refuses. After that, Lucille promises to destroy his new experiment with her powers. Isao takes his leave while telling her to give it her all. As he gets to exit, he reminds Final Calamity that she'll die if she doesn't fight. If she does die, he'll see her as nothing but a failure, and he also lets her know that he's not about to step in to save her. He then lets go of her leash, and the door seals itself, leaving the Calamity girl in the room with Lucille. Fear instantly grips her, and she bangs on the door, hoping for someone to let her out. Isao ignores her cries, telling himself that this is how he should treat test subjects, as the evil alchemist he is. With this, his plans are back on track. He then heads over to the monitoring room, where Cheese is already watching the events unfold. As he tries to tease Isao, our boy tells him to shut up and release Lucille. Cheese tells him that if the disaster girl dies, he shouldn't come crying to him. After that, he hits a switch to release Lucille. Her chains are released, and she savors the moment to stretch her legs. Lucille notices the cameras watching her, so she goes close and tells Isao to enjoy the show. Meanwhile, Cheese gives him some chips while they watch the carnage, but the MC doesn't like the flavor. The rat is shocked because he never used to complain about cheese-flavored chips before. He tries to calm Isao down, letting him know that her collar will neutralize her dark plague virus if she's about to kill the Calamity girl. He then suggests that they should bet on who will win this fight. As he wagers on Lucille, the ultra-high-risk experiment approaches the Calamity girl. On the other hand, Isao bets on his latest experiment because she'll die if she loses. Back in the containment room, Lucille tells the girl to stop bothering with the door because it's impossible to open it. She notices that Calamity girl is ignoring her and doesn't even have the will to fight. Regardless, she gets ready to take her out and claim her master for herself. Cheese then starts commenting on the events like a third-grade commentator. Lucille then sends her dark plague monster to devour her target, but she is shocked as Final Calamity suddenly grabs her hand. The two alchemists are surprised as well, and our boy wonders if she's about to enter combat mode. The two of them are quite happy that the disaster girl is getting serious. Final Calamity then starts dragging Lucille to the door, pointing at it and gesturing for her help. The two alchemists are disappointed to see that the Calamity girl wasn't about to fight. Meanwhile, Lucille's patience is growing thin as she wonders if this girl is serious, but Final Calamity happily shows that she wants her help. The Dark Plague Beast starts laughing at the stupid situation she has found herself in. She tells Isao that his bioweapon is nothing more than an idiot. She grabs the disaster girl's hand, eager to show her how to leave the room. She then starts corrupting the girl's body with her Dark Plague virus, swearing to leave her as nothing but a pile of bones. Final Calamity falls to her knees while enduring the pain of the virus. Lucille mocks the ultimate bioweapon for getting poisoned and reminds the girl that she'll always be Isao's strongest weapon. The readings show that Final Disaster's body is being quickly corrupted by the dark virus. Cheese tells his boss that the virus is rapidly moving through the girl's flesh and corrupting her cells. Isao wonders how this is possible because the blood he implanted in the girl is supposed to kill any pathogen. Meanwhile, we see the Calamity girl lying on the floor and trembling in pain. Lucille is enjoying the show, but she doesn't want her prey to die so easily. The rat quickly tells Isao to stop the experiment before the disaster girl dies, but our boy tells him to be calm. Since the readings are nowhere near a fatal threshold, he believes that there's still room for Final Calamity to show her true self. Lucille stomps on her prey and mocks her master's final disaster for being so weak. Still, the girl is showing no signs of getting better. Lucille wonders why she's so silent when she was full of energy earlier. Cheese warns the MC that the virus has infected over 70% of the girl's cells, but Isao remains calm, saying that the virus hasn't gotten to her brain yet. On the other hand, Lucille assumes that her master isn't so attached to Final Calamity, so she decides it's time to finish her off. She starts wrapping her dark tentacles around the disaster girl's body, lifting her body up and getting ready to end the fight. After taking a taste, she admits that the girl is quite delicious. After that, her shadow beast takes the girl as Lucille starts her grand ritual. At this point, things have gotten critical, so Cheese moves to activate the suppression collar on Lucille. As he's about to press the button, our protagonist stops him. He tells Isao to let go, but our boy is still hopeful that the tables will turn. His assistant tells him that they can't just watch Lucille devour the innocent girl. However, Isao can tell that he only cares now because the disaster girl is pretty. He reminds the filthy rodent that Final Calamity and Lucille are merely tools to help them achieve their goals. Suddenly, he hears the disaster girl calling him master over the speakers. Despite almost being devoured, she manages to say her first words. Cheese is amazed to see that she just spoke. He asks if our boy taught her, and the MC says he gave a quick lesson the previous night. The scene flashes back to the previous night where we see Disaster Girl trying to climb into her master's bed again. He adamantly refuses for a test subject to get into his bed, and when he looks at her, he sees that she is very sad. He then offers her a chance to sleep on the bed for 30 minutes if she can call him master. He remembers that the Azoth solution should have restored her vocal cords, but she struggles to say the words. Seeing this, he concludes that the girl must have forgotten how to speak. After that, he tells her to repeat after him. Our boy starts to slowly say words to her, but she still finds it hard to learn immediately. Isao wonders how she could be this slow to learn words. In the end, she just screams out of frustration. The MC's patience wears out, so he tells the girl to just go back to bed. As she lies back down, she continues practicing the words slowly until she falls asleep. Now in the containment room, she finally learns how to say the word master. Even at that, Lucille tells her that Isao doesn't need a useless experiment like her. As she gets ready to feast, the collar on her neck suddenly activates, causing her to fall to her knees. A thermal discharge is released from the collar to suppress her powers. She then screams her master's name in anger. We then see that our MC pressed the button to stop her. The protagonist decides to stop Lucille because he doesn't want her to eat the implants he put in the disaster girl. Cheese realizes what he's trying to say and subtly mocks him for it, but our boy agrees with his words. After that, the protagonist decides to go retrieve Final Calamity, and he tells his assistant that he doesn't need his help. The scene switches to Final Calamity lying on the floor and struggling to catch her breath. She slightly opens her eyes as a shadow appears over her, and she is happy to see that it's her master. However, Isao tells her not to call him those words because she doesn't deserve it. He then picks up her plague-ridden body to leave, but the girl still refers to him as master. He tells her to shut up, while also telling Lucille to prepare for confinement. As he walks out, Lucille calls out to him and asks why he stopped her. He has never stopped her before, and she feels like the disaster girl is inferior to her in every single way. The MC tells her it's because he doesn't want her to devour the important implants embedded into Disaster Girl. Upon hearing this, she tells him that there's no problem. Meanwhile, Cheese is reading his magazines while wondering why his master staged the whole test if he cares about the girl so much. On the console, Lucille's temperature starts to suddenly go back up, to the point that the numbers are unreadable. As the rat notices this, he starts to panic. As our MC walks out of the confinement area, Cheese alerts him to hurry up and leave quickly. However, Isao wonders why his assistant is yelling so loudly. Cheese warns him that Lucille's collar has failed and her temperature is rising rapidly. The protagonist can't believe his ears, and as he turns back, he sees Lucille directly behind him. She lets him know that the collar isn't broken, but reminds him that viruses can adapt to their environments. During the days she was locked in, she kept triggering the collar and enduring the pain in order to adapt. A week ago, all the cells in her body that couldn't adapt to the cold were killed, allowing her to fully develop cold resistance. Isao tries to stay calm as he tells Lucille that he'll fulfill the promise he made to her. However, she says that spending one day with her is no longer enough. Moments later, Lucille removes her master's mask and gets close enough to corrupt his body with her dark plague virus. As his body weakens, she feels immense joy for being able to feel the activity of his cells. Cheese warns our boy of the infection, but Lucille assures him that she won't activate the virus. Looking into his body, the dark plague beast notices that Final Disaster's saliva has also entered her master's body. She screams at him, asking why there are traces of the disaster girl's salivary amylase in his body. Lucille starts strangling the poor girl for daring to kiss her master. Meanwhile, Cheese is thrown into more panic because Lucille is really dangerous. Lucille's dark virus begins to corrode Final Calamity once more, and this time she isn't holding back one bit. She holds the girl's body in the air, ready to rip her to shreds. She swears to invade all of the disaster girl's cells and make her feel immeasurable agony. As the viruses begin attacking the disaster girl's body, the poor girl screams due to the pain. Lucille is highly resistant to any organic and inorganic compounds, and since the collar can no longer suppress her, Isao wonders how to handle the situation. He thinks of using the void substance, but there's a risk of destroying the entire base with that. At the moment, he is desperate to find something to suppress the dark plague beast. Cheese suddenly tells him that there's something that can work, and our boy is eager to know what it is. The rat tells him that Lucille's obsession with him is the key. Isao listens carefully as his assistant points out Lucille can't infect his heart and brain cells for some reason. He then calls Lucille's attention and holds a gun to his head, giving her his final warning. Lucille is surprised to see her master threatening her to save the disaster girl. He tells her that the components in the girl's body are the most important assets for the Persirad family, and without them, he can't go on to conquer the world or restore his family's glory. Meanwhile, Cheese is impressed by his master's acting skills. Lucille then calms down and Isao is shocked to see how easily she agrees. He realizes that this might be a new way to control the virus beast. To his surprise, she says she'll help him conquer the world once she kills the disaster girl. Final Calamity is completely helpless as she's about to be devoured. As our protagonist decides to use his trump card, the filthy rat asks why he hasn't used it since, and the MC says it's because it's embarrassing. The protagonist then asks Lucille to stop if she wants to cuddle with him every night. Shocked by this, Lucille rushes to her master, and he agrees to do it. The simple thought of it brings her endless joy. He then asks if she agrees to the deal, and Lucille tells him that she has 2 other conditions, and he asks to know what they are. Firstly, Lucille asks that Final Calamity stay in her cage while she is free to roam the world. Our boy reluctantly agrees, and then asks about her second condition. For her second condition, Lucille tells the disaster girl to wake up and watch closely as she hugs their master tightly. She's angry at the girl for stealing Iseo's first kiss, but he explains that the innocent girl doesn't understand what she did. Regardless, Lucille plants a kiss on her master, and as the disaster girl watches, she starts to feel a sharp pain in her chest. Lucille even goes as far as forcefully using her tongue while our boy tries to break free. On the other hand, Cheese doesn't know whether to feel happy or sad for his master. Lucille finally releases her master, savoring every moment of their kiss. She even notices that he's still using his lavender-flavored toothpaste. Isao quickly uses a sterilizing spray in his mouth, but the dark plague beast tells him that it's no use. Meanwhile, the disaster girl watches her master intently while still noticing the pain in her chest. Her emotions cause her system to slowly awaken, burning the viruses in her body in the process. Lucille is shocked to see that the girl has broken free of all the infections in her body. This is something that shouldn't be possible. The next moment, Final Calamity grabs Lucille by the neck, and the plague beast struggles to break free. After that, the girl's hand transforms, and the alchemists quickly recognize it as the left hand of the Ash Angel. Final Calamity lets Lucille know how much she hates her and then proceeds to burn her. We suddenly see a young man with burnt arms, wondering why the molten feather phoenix hasn't lost consciousness. The terrifying phoenix stands before him in a pool of lava, ready to put an end to him. It charges up its fire breath and shoots it at the helpless young man. The old man accepts his fate, since Chaos has safely left the Inferno Ring Island. A girl suddenly approaches him and lets him know that she won't appreciate him even if he sacrifices himself. The girl raises a magical shield to block the phoenix's breath, and the young man is shocked to see her. After successfully blocking the attack, she turns to him and tells him that he's not allowed to ever leave her again. As the moment gets heated and their faces get closer, the young man dives in for a kiss, but the lady immediately steps on his face. She asks who gave him permission to stick out his filthy tongue. Moments later, the director signals the cameras to stop rolling, and we see that this is a movie set. After that, they give the Phoenix, also known as Yahello, a deep-sea feast and tell him to take a break. The filming company is known as White Queen Films, and the set is based in an artificial volcano crater. The director begs the White Queen to calm down, and we find out that she's also the chairman of the filming group. The director explains that the young man is the only person who closely resembles the first mayor among all the actors they could find. However, the White Queen doesn't like the guy's acting skills and decides to replace him. The director agrees, but she reminds the chairman that they've gone over 2,000 people looking for who fits the role. Despite overspending their budget, the chairman quickly decides to add another $200 million to cover costs. Suddenly, one of her guards whispers to her, and she is shocked to hear that her bank was robbed. The guard describes the robbers and how they paralyzed everyone inside the bank. She then hands over the device that was used in the bank robbery. The White Queen looks closely at it and recognizes the symbol on the device. The guard also shows the bullet gentleman, who was hit by a biochemical weapon and turned into a green slime. However, the chairman doesn't want the interference of the patrol unit in this matter. The guard reminds her that the lighthouse area is her hero execution zone. The White Queen activates her powers, causing her hair to change from purple to white. She doesn't care about the zone because the robbers might have an answer that she's been looking for. She then orders her members to be dispatched to find the robbers. She also decides to suspend the film shooting but says that the workers' salaries will still be paid. After that, she remembers the young man who is acting with her. The White Queen walks up to him and asks if he wants to kiss her, but he swears never to try it again. However, the Queen conjures an icicle, and then she stuffs it into the guy's mouth. She offers to spare his life if he is able to melt the ice. She then leaves him to suffer, while vowing that no man can touch her with his mouth except her father. The scene flashes to the past, where we see a young disaster girl trembling in fear as a shadow stands over her. A woman stands before the child, asking why she's cleaning the floor while playing with toys. She snatches the toy bear from the girl and throws it in the puddle of water. As she stomps on the toy, the little girl begs her auntie Jimin to stop. Jimin suddenly slaps the child for talking back to her. The disaster girl's father rushes to his daughter's side and reprimands Jimin for being too harsh. Jimin refers to the man as Mailer, and she reminds him how she helped him to become the kingdom's top playwright. The man is left speechless after she brings up the topic. Suddenly, a strange man appears behind Jimin, asking if it's her family that applied to provide child soldiers. She quickly points to the young child while her father asks why the strange man entered the house without knocking. The strange man then tells Mailer that the Ming-Quan don't need permission to enter anywhere. Mailer is surprised that a member of the Ming-Quan organization is there. Jimun tells him that she just wants to find a good home for the girl. She was the one who asked her father and the Ming-Quan commander to make an application for the girl. As the strange man gets close to the disaster girl, Jimun lets him know that she's a very good prospect. He notices her hateful gaze and finds it impressive. As he takes the girl away, she cries out to her father for help. But there's nothing Mailer can do. Suddenly, Final Calamity wakes up from that hellish nightmare, and she notices her stuffed teddy bear, looking as good as new, beside her. Over in the experimental lab, Cheese notices that some fur is gone from the Super Bunny, but Isao denies knowing anything about it. The scene switches again to a scene some years ago. We see a lot of intravenous infusions hanging from the ceiling while the patient's heart rate is being monitored. There's an elf-looking girl there trying to heal an old man known as the Houndmaster, leader of the underworld hounds. The strange man who took Disaster Girl in her youth walks in, and we find out that he is known as Doberman, the first hound. His master then asks him how the operation went, and Doberman reports that a few of his comrades were killed by the city heroes as they infiltrated Gordon City. The Houndmaster is disappointed to hear that his strongest hounds couldn't break into the Golden Zone and defeat the traitors who betrayed the Latoma dynasty. Doberman tells him that Yorkshire survived, but she's currently missing. Upon hearing this, the Houndmaster loses his temper and demands that the girl be found. Back in our boy's base, Final Calamity nervously watches him pacing up and down in the room. He then yells out that he has an idea, but Cheese tells him to stop shouting like a lunatic. Aside from her test subject codename, our boy decides to name the girl Cool. He then asks his assistant if he's curious about the name, and the rat decides to indulge him. Our boy recalls that it's the name of his mother's favorite flower, but he refuses to tell the rodent. Nevertheless, they both concluded that Cole is the second ultra-high-risk test subject after Lucille. Seeing that Cole's abilities are unstable, the MC decides to find out what made her use the left arm of the Ash Angel. He recalls the first time she used it in the containment zone because she hated sleeping there. Cheese teases him by saying that the girl just wanted to sleep with him. The protagonist assumes that Cool used her ability the second time because she thought that Lucille was attacking him, so she used her ultimate move, the thermal pressure vaporization cannon. Cheese quickly calls out our boy for calling the move a stupid name. Isao, on the other hand, thinks the name sounds really awesome. He highlights that when the ability was used the second time, its temperature was nearing that of a solar flare. Thanks to Lucille's collar using the cold alchemy matrix, she managed to save herself from dying. However, the Dark Plague Beast is severely injured and will take some time to recover. Suddenly, Cole's stomach starts growling, and the alchemists quickly notice. She looks down at her growling belly and tells her master that she's hungry. The MC tells his assistant that he didn't think the girl would need to eat to recharge her energy, but he promises to give her the most nutritious, energy-rich food. Moments later, Cheese is confused to see the food that Isao has prepared for the girl. While our boy is proud of himself, his assistant calls him a lunatic for trying to feed her the savage dragon. The dragon then wakes up to see his master and the disaster girl in front of him. He then gives Isao a more befitting title, hoping that the alchemist will release him. Our MC agrees and tells the dragon that he can use the chance to redeem himself, which is to become food for Final Calamity. The savage dragon loses his mind upon hearing this. Cheese points out that it'll be a waste to use the dragon as food, but our boy feels it's the perfect way for Final Calamity to replenish her energy. He also feels it'll cause her to evolve into her final form. After that, he orders Cool to go devour the dragon. Moments later, the dragon starts begging for its life and swears to never misbehave again. But Isao tells him it's too late. The disaster gets ready to start eating, but the dragon's horns are too hard for her teeth to pierce through. Our boy ends up disappointed as she starts crying in pain. With no other choice, he ends up making a cup of ramen and giving it to her. As they wait for the noodles to be ready, Isao tells the girl what it is. 3 minutes later, he opens the cup, and the disaster girl is dazzled by its contents. He gives her chopsticks to use, but she ignores him and straight up uses her hands like a savage to devour the food. He worries it'll be too hot for her, but Cole seems unbothered. Even though the hot food burns her hands, she happily eats it and enjoys how delicious it tastes. Isao tells Cool to stop crying and embarrassing herself because of the noodles. On the other hand, Cheese can tell that she hasn't had much good food in her life. The MC then teases him about when he was a sewer rat, sneaking around to steal cheese. The rat gets back at him by reminding him of when he was begging for his mother's milk, causing our boy to throw the chopsticks at him. While the two of them fight like siblings, Final Calamity continues to enjoy her meal. After drinking up the sauce, she turns to her master, telling him how good the food tastes. He then helps her to wipe her face because it's all messed up. After wiping her face, the disaster girl goes ahead to devour a whole lot more noodles. As she finishes the next cup of noodles excitedly, she gestures to Isao that she wants more. Cheese then prepares the last cup of instant noodles that they have. An hour later, we see our MC frightened and begging her not to come any closer. He holds up his biochemical gun while desperately clutching his last box of hazelnut chocolate wafers. However, the girl isn't even fazed, and she reaches closer to get more sweets from her master. Feeling frustrated, the MC opens the bag and stuffs all the wafers into his mouth. Regardless, Cole pushes him to the ground and snatches all the wafers from his mouth. Isao then realizes that the girl is crazier than he thought. Eventually, he passes out after having the life sucked out of him. The scene then switches to Cheese, who vows to defend his own stash of treats till the very end. He refuses to let his secret stash of cheese and alcohol go down so easily. Meanwhile, we see the disaster girl sniffing around in search of more treats. She catches the scent of something nice, and she lifts up the rug. She places her left arm on the spot and transforms it to melt the ground. Cheese sees the ceiling above him melting and he starts to panic. The disaster girl makes her way in, landing like a superhero to face the rat. Cheese points his gun at her, warning her not to think of taking anything. In the blink of an eye, she dashes towards him and starts melting his gun. As Cheese fears for his life, the gun is snatched out of his hand, saving his arm from getting disintegrated. As she completely melts the gun, the rat falls to the ground in defeat. Cool then opens the packets of cheese and starts munching on all of them. Instantly, she clears an entire tower of cheese. Cheese cries out in despair, calling the girl the ultimate glutton. Over in the high-risk observation zone, the Abyssal asks the dragon if he's okay, and the dragon tells his friend that there's no way his tough body could ever be devoured. While pointing out that his horns are the hardest, they suddenly shatter. The savage dragon freaks out because his sweet majestic horns are all gone. The final calamity then gets locked away for raiding all of her master's snacks. Isao analyzes her behavior, realizing that she loses control and gets an unstoppable appetite because of sweets. He can't believe that she even ate all the sesame seeds in the kitchen. He notices that his assistant is quiet and asks why he's not speaking. Cheese finally speaks in an angry tone about how the disaster girl ate all his limited cheese. In his rage, he demands that the experiment be punished severely. He whips out a chainsaw, ready to shred the girl into many pieces. After that, he plans to douse her eyes with the most vile fluids they have. While listing out his evil plans, Isao tries to remind him that the girl is cute, so he has no other choice but to agree. Cheese then asks the MC to smack the girl around a bit in order to satisfy his rage. Regardless, the protagonist admits that Cole needs to be punished. The scene switches to his room, where he is ready to deliver his punishment to the girl. The girl lies on his legs, wondering what's about to happen. And then he starts spanking her like a little kid while listing out all her crimes. She starts crying because of the painful spanks, but Isao feels this will be enough to teach her a lesson. Cheese then tells his master that they need to resupply quickly to feed the entire base. Our boy agrees, complaining about how he didn't even get to eat dinner. The more he thinks about it, the angrier he gets and beats her. Cheese wonders if they should leave Disaster Girl at the base, but Isao fears that she'll turn the place upside down. Seeing no other alternative, the MC decides to bring her along. Moments later, we see them dressing up to head out. With all their items ready, it's time for them to go out and hunt for food materials. Meanwhile, the Disaster Girl wonders why they're looking so weird. They try to get her to pose as a cool villain like them. Moments later, they head over to where the transportation device is, and our boy activates it. Feeling a bit scared, the Disaster Girl holds her master's hand for comfort. He notices it and feels frustrated with the way her attitude tends to switch up. As he counts down, they close their eyes, and he helps the girl to close her own. A bright light flashes in the room, and the next second, we see the Alchemists at their destination. Standing at the highest point of a building, our boy welcomes his people to his criminal paradise, Golden City. The city's beacon tower stands tall with 32 teleportation hubs. Out of all of them, Isao's favorite one is the one in the Beacon District. The Disaster Girl looks over the edge, amazed by all the things she's seeing. Isao decides to find clothes for her first since she stands out too much. He sets their next destination to Camilla Avenue, where he feels he'll find decent clothes for Cool. Cheese points out that the district mostly sells expensive clothes and most of their cash is already gone. Nevertheless, the MC sees this as a chance to plan their next grand heist. He tells the Disaster Girl to hold his hand as they head out. As she takes his hand, he grabs her and jumps off the tower. As they fall through the air, the Disaster Girl holds onto her master tightly. He then activates his anti-gravity device. As the device glows, their descent speed begins to slow down. When they stop midair, the girl opens her eyes, shocked to see that they're floating. After that, they start flying towards Camilla Avenue. The scene then switches to the Golden Boulevard area. In the middle of the place, we see a golden statue of one of the city's heroes. While the Disaster Girl admires the statue, our boy is getting impatient while waiting for the rat to buy a hot dog. He then hears a child pointing out that a girl is climbing the statue. Upon hearing this, he wonders who would be stupid enough to climb the statue. The situation finally clicks in his head, and he looks around for the girl, but he doesn't see her. He then glances at the statue, only to see Final Calamity climbing it like a gorilla. He yells at her to get down quickly, but the girl sits on top of the statue and waves over to her master. Meanwhile, Cheese is spicing up his hot dog after tying up the vendor because the man messed up his order. While enjoying his snack, he walks back to where Isao is, but suddenly sees some policemen running past him. Looking over at the statue, the filthy rat is shocked to see Cool on top of it. Cheese can't believe the mess he has come back to after leaving briefly. The policemen then tell the Disaster Girl to come down quickly or they'll have to use force. As the girl begins to panic, the rat decides to do something quickly before she ends up in jail. His special plan is to put on his sunglasses and blend in with the crowd, leaving our boy to deal with the mess. Suddenly, Izao throws up a canister while he's in the middle of the crowd. The bright flash alerts Cheese as he tries to escape. With all the people knocked out, the protagonist swears to never take the girl anywhere again. The rat quickly grabs a knife with his tail and cuts up the policeman while they're down. After that, he tells his master to grab the girl quickly, but Izao calls him out for trying to escape earlier. As the policemen regain consciousness, they get up to move but trip over their pants, which have been cut. Meanwhile, the MC and his party successfully escape from the scene. He can tell that Cool will get them all killed someday. Suddenly, they hear a voice yelling at them to keep their hands away from the store's window. This man is the manager of the Golden Legacy Executive Store, and he doesn't want his glass smudged with finger grease. Our boy then asks his partner what they should do. Suddenly, the rat starts rubbing his whole body against the glass and licking it. The manager yells at them again for not heeding his words, but the rat suddenly starts pasting money on the glass. The man is shocked as Cheese continues defiling his window with money. Izao apologizes to the manager for staining the glass with his tip. Being a slave to money, the manager happily welcomes them inside. As they head in, the man goes to the window to start picking up all the bills. The manager returns inside and asks the protagonist what kind of clothes he's looking for. Izao then points out that the clothes are meant for the disaster girl. The manager goes to ask her what she would like, but she seems confused by his words. As she gives him a cute smile, the old man becomes mesmerized by her beauty. However, he feels bad to see that she's been enslaved by the MC. Our boy then tells the manager to bring out all their finest evening gowns for the girl to try on. Later on, one of the workers rolls out a rack of clothes. The salesgirls try to take the disaster girl into the changing room, but the girl doesn't want to be away from her master. As they take her in, Izao sits down to wait. The manager then pours a cup of tea and offers it to our boy, but he's not interested in it. He then tells Cheese to hand over the can of soda that he stashed. The rat tosses it to him while asking not to be disturbed as he tries on different hats. 20 minutes later, Izao is getting impatient while waiting. The workers then tell him that the disaster girl has refused to be undressed. The protagonist walks into the dressing room and sees Cool sitting by a corner while trembling. He tells her to stop making a fuss and just take off her clothes, and she looks up at him. As the workers undress her, our boy assures the girl that he's close by. As they keep going back and forth at it, Izao gets tired of reassuring her. Moments later, Cool steps out in a stunning crimson gown, and our protagonist can't help but admire her. The manager comes over, telling Izao that his girlfriend looks very beautiful in the gown. The MC quickly tells the man never to refer to the girl as his girlfriend again. However, he feels the gown is not up to standard and asks for something better. The manager tells him not to be hasty because they are bound to find something that satisfies him. Moments later, the disaster girl appears in another stunning white dress, but our boy feels it lacks dignity. The next dress is an elegant golden gown that leaves our boy completely speechless. The manager calls his attention, telling him that the gown was modeled after the dress of the Empress of the Golden Empire. Suddenly, an elegant limousine pulls up in front of the store. Some guys step out and roll a carpet for their master to make an entrance. Upon seeing this, the manager recalls that Lady Renee of the Black Palace is supposed to visit. He quickly shoves our MC's party into the fitting room, telling them to hide. He also tells them not to come out or make a sound until the lady has left. The door of the limousine opens, and we see Haegong Renee stepping out, accompanied by her strange-looking guards. As she walks on the carpet, she tells one of the guards, Tengu, that her feet are getting cold. Tengu, the demonic-looking guard, decides to handle it quickly. She ships out her blades and unleashes fire from them. With the walkway engulfed in flames, Gong Renee calmly proceeds. As Lady Renee enters the store, the manager and his workers kindly welcome her. He tells her that they've turned away other female customers so that she can have the dark gothic limited edition dress. Meanwhile, the protagonist peeks out of the dressing room to see what's going on. While they eavesdrop, the rat wonders if the girl is from the same Kuroya family he knows. Isao confirms it, saying that they're one of the world's noble families. The disaster girl makes noises as if she understands what they're talking about. Our hero wonders what a noble person is doing there, and Cheese tells him that they need commoners to feel superior. Renee's guards keep rolling out the carpet, and the manager tells her that they're almost there. Eventually, they get to where the limited edition dress is, but the girl doesn't look excited at all. The guards, fearing for their lives, tell the lady that the carpet has run out. Tengu quickly reprimands them for not preparing enough carpet despite the fact that Lady Renee hates wearing shoes. The men quickly bow their heads in fear, admitting that they've messed up. The demonic guard says they should already know what to do since they're servants of the Kuroya family. The men come to a sudden realization of their fates. As they pull out daggers from their jackets, Tengu tells them to perform the Blade Heart ritual. Just as they are about to stab themselves, the knives suddenly shatter thanks to Shinku, the other guard who forgives them. They humbly thank Shinku, but he hits them with his staff, causing them to pass out in pain. Shinku then tells his lady to use them as carpets. Guided by her guards, Lady Renai proceeds to where the dress is. Meanwhile, Cheese isn't too fond of the arrogance of nobles. On the other hand, the MC sees this as a great chance, and his assistant wonders what he means. He says that this is their chance to capture the noble girl. Cheese thinks he has lost his mind, but our boy feels he needs to do something big to become known. The rat reminds him that these world nobles all invested in the city, and it's simply their playground. Meanwhile, the noble girl finally makes her way to the dress, and the manager uncovers it for her. At the same time, Isao tries to provoke his assistant to go ahead with his plans. Suddenly, they hear loud screams from inside the store. There, we see that the limited edition dress has been completely torn up. The manager and his workers are too stunned to speak. The noble girl then asks if this is the special dress that has been reserved for her. Tengu and Shinku get ready to slice up the manager for angering their lady. In the fitting room, Cheese reveals that he's the one responsible for all the trouble. While the disaster girl tries to see what's going on, she trips on her dress and pushes her master. Meanwhile, the manager tries to explain his innocence to Lady Renee. At that moment, our boy suddenly falls out of the fitting room. Instantly, the manager blames him for ruining the dress. Meanwhile, Cheese concludes that it's all over for them. Tengu grabs our MC by his tie and lifts him up, asking if he really ruined the dress. Isao slips out a canister from his jacket while accepting that he's guilty of the crime. While his words enrage the demonic guy, Cheese wonders why his master would confess so easily. On the other hand, the manager hopes the protagonist will die so that he can live. Tengu threatens to poke out the MC's eyes. As her sharp fingers get close, Lady Renee tells her to stop, and she says that she actually likes the dress. Upon hearing this, everyone else thinks she must have lost her mind. Akatengu tries to persuade her master to allow her to cut off Isao's finger at least. However, Lady Kuroya doesn't want to repeat herself. With no other choice, the demonic guard calms down and lets our boy go, but she still orders him to behave himself. On the other hand, the MC is thinking of how his name will appear in headlines the next day. With an evil look, he ponders which grenade to use in order to execute his plan. Meanwhile, Kuroya reveals that she already knows his identity and his plans. She calls him out for harboring evil thoughts as soon as she stepped in. The protagonist quickly panics, wondering how she figured him out. Even Cheese wonders if the small lady sensed Isao's presence while they were hiding. Kuroya then slowly approaches Isao and assumes that he tore up the dress in order to appear before her. She feels he did all this to get into the Kuroya family, and upon hearing this, our boy is left speechless. Still thinking that she's correct, Kuroya decides to give him a chance. She offers to let him become her servant if he kneels and kisses her feet. Meanwhile, Akatengu gets upset because she hasn't even been allowed to kiss her lady's feet. On the other hand, Kuroya thinks our boy will be so eager to kiss her feet, but he refuses to kiss her smelly feet. Everyone else is baffled to see that Isao actually said those words about Kuroya. The protagonist goes ahead to tell the young lady to wear some shoes since her family is so rich. At this point, he's just making things worse for himself. Kuroya gets upset and even starts crying. She yells at Isao, telling him that her feet aren't stinky because they're always sprayed with perfume. As she raises her hand to slap him, the MC gets ready to snatch her and use his grenade on everyone else. Before the young girl's hand lands on him, the disaster girl rushes out and grabs Kuroya's hand. Cheese can't even comprehend how the girl escaped him so quickly. Instantly, a blade is held to Cool's face, and Akatengu tells her to let go of the young lady. Meanwhile, Isao is frustrated with how troublesome things are getting. While the disaster girl still holds on to Kuroya, the little girl can't help but admire how beautiful she is. Kuroya then tells her guard to sheathe her blade quickly. She understands that the disaster girl was only trying to protect her master. Meanwhile, our boy is shocked to see that Kuroya already understands the relationship between them. Suddenly, the little girl says she wants to keep Final Calamity as one of her servants. Akatengu misunderstands her words and feels like the young lady has been reading inappropriate things. The store manager, on the other hand, is tired of all the drama going on. However, Kuroya is upset at the disaster girl for not even saying a word. It's obvious that Cool is confused by what she's saying. Kuroya assumes that she's from a noble family, but even so, she never gives up on anything she has set her eyes on. She then tells the disaster girl to name her price, but the girl is still confused. Isao tells Kuroya that it's her family who should be naming a price for Final Calamity. As Kuroya asks what he means, our boy pulls out his mask and declares that she has been kidnapped by him. Akatengu quickly unsheathes her blade to protect her master, but Isao quickly tosses his poisonous grenade on the ground. The vile fumes fill the room, weakening Kuroya's guards in the process. As it dissipates, they notice that their lady is gone. As the moon's light shines over the city, we see Kuroya unconscious and being carried away by Isao's party. Cheese tells the MC that their carefree days are over, but our boy assures him that the grenade he used causes severe memory loss. He believes that the bodyguards must have lost their minds by now. Back in the store, Shinku assumes that a white-haired, frail boy kidnapped their mistress, but Akatengu tells him that it was a chubby, blonde kid with freckles. The two of them start arguing about the features of the boy who kidnapped Kuroya. The scene switches back to Isao's base, where Kuroya has been tied up to a chair. Isao and Cheese welcome her to the Nightmare's Nest, where she is now their hostage. The disaster girl suddenly appears behind them, scaring the hell out of the alchemists. The protagonist then yells at her for leaving the room without permission. Meanwhile, Kuroya is able to loosen the gag around her mouth. She then mocks the so-called top villains for not being able to tie a gag properly. Cheese tells Isao that their professionalism has been mocked, but our boy reminds the filthy rat that he's the one who tied the gag. However, Cheese points out that Isao tied the girl's hands and feet, only for them to see that Kuroya has completely freed herself. They start arguing and blaming each other for not doing anything while the hostage got free. Suddenly, they notice that the lady has escaped. We then see Kuroya eating chips and making herself at home along with the disaster girl. The MC holds his gun to her head and threatens to blow her brains out if she dares to cause any trouble. However, Kuroya wonders if alchemy is more frightening than the punishment of her family. As our boy asks the kind of punishments they have, the lady tells him of the first method where they use thin iron plates to crush their victim. Then there's the one where they use a molten iron helmet to burn the person's head, and even another where holes are made in the person's body and centipedes are bred inside them. Cheese tries to stay calm and asks if they'll use these methods on them if they return her. The protagonist gets furious at his silly assistant for thinking of the idea of sending the hostage back. Regardless, Kuroya assures them that those punishments won't be used on them only because they are considered light punishments. She lets them know that what they will face will make them regret ever being born. Upon hearing this, Cheese is completely petrified. Suddenly, Kuroya offers to clear their name and give them a huge sum of money on one condition. As Cheese asks what she wants, the young lady requests to become part of their gang. Isao and his partner are baffled as they hear this. She feels she'll have more fun if she joins them to commit crimes. Seeing that their weapons were able to take down her guards, she offers to back them financially. Cheese is completely astounded to see that she has Golden City's highest level bank card. However, Isao figures there are other conditions. The girl is impressed by his cleverness, and then she tells him that they also have to listen to her all the time. As our boy pushes her hand away, the filthy rat shoves him to the side and quickly agrees to become Kuroya's slave. The protagonist mocks him for having no dignity and reprimands him for trying to make a decision on his behalf. Cheese tells him that with the funding they can focus on their earth-shattering crime. Regardless, Isao, being the head of the Percival clan, refuses to take orders or accept charity from anyone. He orders Cheese to incapacitate the girl and send a ransom note to her family, but she tells him that he won't gain a single penny for kidnapping her. In the Kuroya family, anyone who gets kidnapped becomes an outcast, and the kidnappers will be hunted down. Their cruelty comes as a shocker to the filthy rodent. The young lady then offers to give them a large sum, and they won't have to take orders from her, but she requests that they kill the current head of her family, Kuroya Inju. As Isao realizes who she wants dead, she confirms that it's her dear father. Later on, Isao and his gang are seen enjoying a large feast for dinner. He says that he doesn't mind killing the girl's father, considering the large amount of money she offered to them. However, Cheese says he wouldn't even know his own dad if Kuroya asked Isao to kill him. According to Isao, his mom said he'll find out his father's identity once he restores his family's glory. His assistant tells him not to worry for now and to just focus on enjoying the meal. Apparently, Kuroya gave them 20 million gold pounds as an advance payment for their mission. The scene then switches to the Kuroya household. There, the armors of the guards are laid out on the floor, and we see them chained up while being soaked in a tank of water. We see the head of the Kuroya family mixing something repulsive in his chalice. Then, he tells the guards how the centipede's 12 nests torture method needs some improvement. He approaches them and lets them know that they'll be used as test subjects for not being able to protect their mistress. With fear in her eyes, Akatengu asks for another chance to rescue the young lady. Inju wonders how they can even do that when they don't remember what the kidnappers look like. As he's about to toss the leeches into her tanks, she requests to atone with the Blade Heart ritual instead. Suddenly, the young lady returns and tells her father to stop. She lets him know that she's completely alright. Inju tosses the cup away and rushes to hug his daughter. He embraces her tightly, letting her know how much she was missed. Later on, Kuroya sits outside, enjoying the night sky and the fireflies floating around. While she looks up at the moon, Akatengu approaches her and humbly thanks her for saving their lives. The young girl then opens a pack of chips and offers it to her guard. Akatengu wonders what it is, but her master tells her it tastes good and she should try it. The guard picks it up and asks where the young lady got the junk food. However, Kuroya tells her to just eat it and stop asking so many questions. Akatengu takes a bite and completely falls in love with the taste and texture. While she enjoys the snacks, she asks her mistress how she managed to escape, but Kuroya tells her it's a secret. Akatengu wonders what her mistress means by this. The scene switches back to the MC's base, where Cheese talks about how cruel the Kuroya family is with their methods. Isao points out how they even had so many hidden weapons and plenty of chances to slit their throats. Cheese teases him about how Kuroya wanted him to be her slave, but our boy will happily send the filthy rat away if he's eager to be someone's pet. Right now, the protagonist just wants to kill Inju and be done with the little girl. The rat tells him that if the plan succeeds, they'll never have to worry about funding again. He recalls that our boy was also able to get his revenge. The scene flashes back to when Kuroya was tied up and she was warning Isao about touching her feet. However, the MC starts using his modified foxtail grass to tickle the girl's feet and also give her an unbearable itching sensation. An hour later, her feet were completely red and she got upset at our boy for defiling her feet. Meanwhile, we see the store manager reporting his losses to the police. However, the officer tells him that his descriptions of the suspects are completely different from what the guards sketched. He insists that the others are lying and tells the officer that it was a creepy rat man and black-haired boy who caused his losses. Sadly, the officer can't accept his testimony. Suddenly, a girl barges into the interrogation room looking for the loser who lost 800,000 in a single night. As the officer tells her to get out, she holds up a badge to his face, revealing that she is Chief Babapolya, the new Beacon District Security Chief. The officer looks at Babapolya's dressing and asks if she's really the new chief. She wonders if she doesn't look the part and goes ahead to tell him that only the high-ranking officials of the patrol would dare to sit like her. As the officer demands to know what's going on, the chief assumes that he wants one of those people who needs to be bribed. She gives him permission to touch her, but it only makes him more furious. He leaves the room in a boiling rage and decides to go ask the gatekeepers why they allowed a punk inside the premises. Suddenly, Torrin Blackhorn, the captain of the district investigation team, approaches the officer and asks if he properly greeted the new chief. The officer asks if he's joking, but Blackhorn assures him that Minotaurs never joke. Other officers come around and start praising the new chief as well, but Blackhorn quickly shuts them up. The Minotaur tells them that their headquarters hasn't issued a final appointment yet, so they need to be careful. He says he had someone check Babapolya's record, but he hesitates to speak on the results. As the police officer urges him to say it, Blackhorn whispers that the chief has no records, meaning she was transferred from outside security patrol. Suddenly, Babapolya shows up beside them while they're gossiping about her. The officers are completely startled as they notice her. They all stand at attention and await orders from her. The chief tells them to relax, but her work style is mostly fun, passionate, and unconventional. One of the officers points out that she counted wrongly, and she quickly praises him for his bravery. The man hopes she'll kiss him as a reward, but she ends up giving him a frog sticker. She then tells them that the robbery case, Miss Kuroya's kidnapping, and the formal dress theft will all be investigated together. She offers to go on a date with anyone who provides important clues for these cases. Upon hearing this, all the officers, including Blackhorn, quickly rush out to get started on the case. The human officers wonder why the captain is competing with them, but the Minotaur says he just wants to solve the case. Meanwhile, Babapolya looks down at a picture of our boy carrying the disaster girl, and she swears to catch him. At that time, she happened to be at Camilla Square, and she took a picture of him. Over at the Golden City Grand Theater, we see two ushers waiting for esteemed guests to arrive. One of them mentions that Mile will be coming to perform at the theater next Friday. His colleague is shocked to hear that the great Mile is coming, although the hellhounds from his continent are more fearsome. The guy mentions how one of the city heroes escaped when they confronted the hellhounds who came to assassinate the world nobles. Suddenly, he gets mesmerized as a beautiful lady passes him. We then see Isayo and the disaster girl gracefully walking into the venue. Cheese confronts the ushers and threatens to pull out their eyes if they keep staring at the disaster girl. Fearing for his life, the guy quickly apologizes. He tells his colleague there's no reason to check her ticket because he feels that she's a noble. Meanwhile, the protagonist commends Final Calamity on playing her part well. Cheese, feeling jealous of our boy, tells him that he'll be the lackey next time. While Isao struggles to keep the girl's tongue away from him, he tells his partner that they need to inspect the structure of the theater well before next Friday. As they walk through the hall, they come across different movie posters. While the disaster girl is fascinated by them, our boy finally reaches the main hall. As they head inside, Final Calamity notices a poster of the famous playwright Mile. Suddenly, her memory flashes back to when she was taken away as a kid and her father couldn't do anything. 2 hours later, Isao asks his assistant if he has drawn the map, and the rat assures him that he has it all covered. Suddenly, they realize that Cole is nowhere to be found. 2 hours ago, while the disaster girl was staring at the picture of her dad, she laid her hands on it, trying to remember the connection she has to him. Suddenly, Miles shows up, startling her as he asks if she's a fan. The man expresses his honor to perform in the magical Golden City. He then asks the disaster girl for her name, but she seems too shy to speak. As she tries to say her name, she sees a little girl hugging Mile and referring to him as her father. Jimin then comes over and tells the little girl to show some respect to her father. Mile tells the woman that there's no harm in allowing the girl to have some freedom. When he turns around to look for the disaster girl, she's no longer there. The clouds suddenly get dark outside, and heavy rain starts to pour down. The ushers use their umbrellas while envying those who are inside cuddling with beautiful women. They suddenly see Cole leaving the theater angrily. They try to offer her an umbrella, but she ignores them and continues walking. In the slums of the Golden City, we see all kinds of characters, such as smokers and desperate junkies who are giving away their life savings to get some drugs. We then see a dark-haired lady subtly exchanging an item with a hooded old man. Suddenly, the disaster girl bumps into the old man and he yells at her to watch where she's going. The girl selling drugs also notices her walking by. The other lady who's smoking tells her that the Dark Star Street doesn't suit someone like her. Regardless, Final Calamity ignores all of them until she gets to a lonely corner and stoops down there while the rain drenches her. Frustration builds up in her mind and she questions who exactly she is. Another lady then approaches her and asks if she's lost. She tells Cole to join her organization known as the Thousand Birds, but she'll need to hand over all personal belongings before she can join. The disaster girl grabs her hand as she tries to take the dress. The lady then warns her to let go, but Cole says she can't let go of the dress because her master gave it to her. The gray-haired lady gets pissed off and slaps Cole instantly. Then, she asks if the disaster girl is willing to take off the dress now, but the girl still refuses. Suddenly, the strange lady whips out sharp feathers, ready to slice up Final Calamity. The poor Cole ends up sustaining many sharp cuts all over her body. Meanwhile, Cheese is trying to use his sharp nose to track Final Calamity. While they search through, they enter an alley, and the rat tells Isayo that Cole is close by. Even though the rain washes away most of her scent, Cheese is still able to pick up a faint trace of her. Cheese warns our boy that they're about to enter Dark Star Street, the worst place to get lost in. But Isayo wonders why he's scared of a few bottom feeders. The rat warns him of the 1,000 birds, saying that the security patrol hasn't been able to deal with them. The 1,000 birds mostly consist of women, and they engage in all sorts of crimes, but it's also noted that they seem to really hate men. Final Calamity is dragged into the hideout of the 1,000 birds, and some members suspect she might be working undercover for the security patrol. The poor girl lies on the floor with sharp bleeding cuts all over her body. The girl who sliced her up says that Disaster Girl needs some proper training to get accustomed to their rules. One of them goes closer, mocking the sad look the girl has on her face. The third member of the group reminds them that they just need to make men their slaves. All the men behind her quickly agree because they don't have a choice. The gray-haired girl then tells one of their members, Raven, to dig into the Disaster Girl's mind. Raven gets close to the girl and places a hand on her hand. She starts seeing memories that the girl has of Isao and how he usually treats her. She also sees the moment that Disaster Girl met Mile in the theater. It then flashes back to when Disaster Girl was taken away as a child and locked in a cage. The man who kidnapped her comes in and tosses her a small piece of bread, but before she can reach it, all the other locked-up kids rush to grab it while pushing her away. One of them manages to pick up the food, but all of them suddenly start fighting for it. They even go as far as to bash each other's heads with sharp rocks. After killing the poor child, the culprit tells the others not to mess with what is hers. The masked man then tells Final Calamity that she won't survive if she doesn't fight. The Hellhounds begin engraving their code into her mind, fully transforming her into one of them. After Ravam sees all this, she's thrown into a state of panic. Back in the alleyways, Isao threatens a stranger with one of his experiments as he asks if the guy has seen a lady in a golden dress. He threatens to leave the guy like his friend if he dares to lie. The poor stranger looks over to the side and sees a huge insect sucking his friend's brain. Cheese recalls how Isao thought one of these bio-brain mosquitoes was too disgusting to use. The stranger then tells the MC that Silver Phoenix took Cole to a warehouse close by. Isao then orders the guy to guide him to the location. As they get there, the sight completely terrifies them. They see many dead bodies of men lying all around. As they inspect the bodies, they see that all of them died by having their throats slashed. This doesn't make any sense because it doesn't fit the kind of wounds that the Disaster Girl would do. Suddenly, a girl comes crawling out and begging for help. Isao calls his assistant to come and take a look at the survivor. Cheese quickly recognizes her as Silver Phoenix. Then, Isao tells him to get her stabilized quickly so that they can interrogate her. After that, they inject a serum into her that heals human tissues. After a few doses, the girl recovers, but she starts mumbling weird things. Isao then asks her if it was Cole who made all this mess, but Silver Phoenix tells him that she doesn't know while trembling in fear. An hour ago, Raven tried to break free of the Disaster Girl's grip, but her wrist got snapped instantly. While she screams in pain, the other members of the 1,000 birds are alerted. As the Disaster Girl gives them a deadly look, we see that her hair has also turned back to purple. Sharp feathers come flying at Final Calamity, but she easily catches all of them. Silver Phoenix is amazed that the girl was able to stop all 3 of her feather blades. The others threaten the girl to release Raven, or she won't leave that place alive. Suddenly, Raven tells them that the girl is a hellhound. Her colleagues are shocked to hear that the girl is really the one who tried to assassinate the world nobles. Silver Phoenix then approaches her, asking her to name her price so that she can free Raven. Her colleague tries to tell the boss that they have numbers on their side, but Silver Phoenix tells her to shut up. The boss then promises to keep the Hellhounds secret because they don't really care about the nobles. Suddenly, Final Calamity tells her to take her clothes off, leaving Silver Phoenix stunned. The other girl is shocked to see that her boss actually obeyed the Hellhounds' orders. Raven explains that it was the only way for them to have survived. The smoker then comes and starts mocking Falcon for having the smallest chest. Meanwhile, Silver Phoenix tells her members to shut up and find clothes for her. On the other hand, Raven wonders why the Hellhound let them live. Suddenly, Doberman shows up and tells them that they shouldn't actually be alive. The girls quickly try to look for the person talking to them, but as soon as Doberman reveals himself, he instantly takes down Falcon. The girl instantly bleeds out, and as she falls to the ground, she tells her boss to run away. In mere seconds, all the other girls are killed by having their throats slashed. As Doberman stands over Silver Phoenix, he mocks her gang for being too easy to squash. Back in the present, Cheese wonders how the hell Final Calamity even lost to the Bullet Gentleman in the first place. Meanwhile, Isao is shocked that the Disaster Girl's hair turned back to purple. Silver Phoenix then grabs his coat and begs him to save her other members, offering to give him full control of her organization. Upon hearing this, Cheese says he'll hold her to her promise. He sees that her pupils are no longer responding, and the only way to save her is to use a particular treatment method. However, the protagonist drags him off so that they quickly find Final Calamity. He refuses to allow the rat to give Silver Phoenix the preservation agent. While they argue, Cheese then tosses the box of medicine to the lady. While she wonders what it is, the rat tells her to use it on the others, or their bodies will rot. The scene switches to the Niliu Bay cross-sea bridge. There, we see the Disaster Girl standing in the middle of the rain. She notices that her left arm, right eye, and heart are all working, and she wonders if it was our boy who saved her. Suddenly, Doberman shows up behind her, referring to her as Yorkshire. She quickly notices his voice and turns to face him. He then asks how her assassination mission went and why she disappeared for so long. She tells him that she got poisoned as she infiltrated the Black Palace estate, and then a man known as Dawn Duskblade cut off her left arm and left leg. Doberman recognizes the name, saying he's the strongest swordsman of the Divine Mandate Order, and the guy is also the 5th-ranked hero in the city. However, he wonders how Yorkshire is standing perfectly when her limbs were cut off. She then tells him that someone saved her, but she doesn't know who the person is. Regardless, all he cares about is for her to continue her mission. As Yorkshire agrees, Isao suddenly appears and reminds her that he is her one and only master. The Hellhounds look up and see our boy standing on top of the bridge with them. Final Calamity tells Doberman that Isao is the one who saved her. Seeing that our boy treated her well, he wonders if she's about to betray him, but she says she'll never do such a thing. Unexpectedly, Doberman orders her to kill the MC, and once she's done, they can go on to other important matters. After that, Yorkshire agrees to carry out the mission. She approaches the protagonist, giving him a very stern look. Then, she tells him that he shouldn't have followed her. Our boy takes off his mask and tells her that she became a member of the Percival family the moment he saved her. He then threatens to beat her if she doesn't come home nicely. Suddenly, the girl recalls those embarrassing moments of getting spanked. As she rushes to take him down, Lucille suddenly shows up to stop her. The Dark Plague Beast is eager to settle their fight from last time. Isao warns her not to use her virus on Final Calamity, but she tells him to calm down. She tries to confirm if our boy will sleep with her if she keeps Final Calamity occupied, but he gets embarrassed by her question. After that, our boy walks up to confront Doberman. He sees that the only way to claim Final Calamity is to wipe out the Hellhounds. Doberman then threatens him, saying that those who get within 5 meters of him are automatically dead. As Final Calamity tells her fellow Hellhound to wait, the guy instantly slices the MC's throat. Isao falls to his knees while bleeding out. Meanwhile, Doberman calls him a useless kid who's all talk and no bite. Suddenly, a sharp feather blade comes flying at him, but he quickly stops Yorkshire and tells her to explain herself. However, the girl doesn't even understand her emotions at the moment. Lucille also wonders how Final Calamity escaped from her so quickly. Suddenly, she sees that her arm has been cut off. Despite seeing her arm fall to the ground, she can't believe it. Meanwhile, Final Calamity reminds Doberman that she told him to wait. A weird magic symbol suddenly appears in her eyes. On the other hand, Doberman reminds her that Hellhounds are not supposed to form attachments. Isao suddenly starts laughing, leaving the Hellhound shocked to see that he's still alive. While our boy wipes off the blood, he tells Doberman that he faked his death to see if Final Calamity still retains memories of him. Of course, if someone of his status was killed so easily, it would be embarrassing. He then orders the girl to return to her true master. However, the Disaster Girl suddenly attacks Isao. This leaves Doberman even more confused about what's going on. Meanwhile, Lucille swears to kill them for attacking her master. While the MC suffers the pain in his gut, Yorkshire lets him know that she is not the same as Final Calamity, and if he keeps pushing her, she won't hold back. However, our boy begs to differ. He then shows her the teddy bear, which supposedly means a lot to her. He offers her a chance to join him and reshape the world into one where she can keep her loved ones by her side. However, Doberman tells him that he won't live to see such a world. Suddenly, a whole army of Hellhounds shows up on the bridge, each of them wearing the same type of armor. Doberman then orders his troops to kill all of them. As they all rush to take down our boy, he is completely unfazed by their numbers. As he brings out a gun from his jacket, he feels happy that he has lured out the Hellhound's true power. He points the gun at them, ready to send them all to an early grave. He shoots a can of crystals into the air, and as it flies, it leaves traces all over the air. Suddenly, the savage dragon emerges from the can, leaving Doberman petrified at the sight of the beast. An hour ago, after Isao and Cheese learned of Cole's change in personality, Isao told his assistant that something was bothering him. When the rat asks what it is, our boy reveals that he's worried about what will happen if the Hellhound personality overtakes Cole's persona. The rat starts panicking and tells him to stop thinking up more bad scenarios. The MC decides that only Lucille can be used to suppress Cole. The scene changes to where Lucille is recovering inside a tank. Cheese tells Isao to think it through because it'll be worse if both ultra-high-risk test subjects lose control. However, the MC can tell that the Dark Plague Beast is pretending to be weak to avoid getting locked up again. With her memory factor being reverse transcribed, Lucille can never die so far as a single Dark Plague virus remains. With this, she can easily regenerate her entire body from scratch. Our boy then boasts about being able to create the perfect experiment. Being a nuisance, Cheese reminds him that his other experiment lost control and is currently regaining her human personality. Our boy gets angry and tells the filthy rodent to shut up. After that, he tells Lucille to stop pretending or she'll miss the chance to stretch her legs. The Dark Plague Beast then smiles and asks if her master will be coming as well. Meanwhile, in an ice cream truck, Bobopolia is glad that she decides to get seats with genuine leather. We see her resting her legs on the wheel and enjoying a sweet donut. However, an officer tells her that she added too many useless things and ended up going over the budget. The chief tells the guy that the truck is a multi-function vehicle disguised as a donut truck and it will be her office. The guy gets impatient with her, but she stuffs the donut in his mouth while telling him that this will allow her to get to a scene quickly. Suddenly, they receive an alert about a dragon appearing on the Naliu Bay Cross Sea Bridge. Bobopolua quickly puts on her shoes and steps on the gas, rushing to the scene of the disturbance quickly. The officer cries out for her to slow down so that he can fasten his seatbelt. Meanwhile, Blackhorn and the others are left behind without even loading weapons into the truck. Over in the White Queen's residence, we see a man completely frozen solid in the middle of a dome. A lady known as Chow Wei walks in, and a guard stops her, telling her that the chairwoman is currently resting. Chow Wei then tells the guard that a dragon has appeared on Naliu Bridge, which is the chairwoman's heroic enforcement zone. The guard tells her that the security patrol and lower-ranked heroes need to handle it first, and if they fail, that's when the chairwoman can come in. Regardless, Chow Wei says that if the White Queen doesn't act now, the city will suffer heavy casualties. Still, the guard grabs the lady's hand and reminds her that no one is allowed to disturb the chairwoman. Meanwhile, the White Queen is peacefully sleeping with the ice statue of a random guy. Back on the bridge, the savage dragon's presence is too overwhelming and terrifying for the hellhounds. The large beast opens its mouth wide and devours the assassins. Doberman then realizes that Isao could be from the Persilad family from centuries ago. Suddenly, Lucille shoots out her Dark Plague beasts at him, but he manages to evade them quickly. She tells him to worry about himself first before worrying about his comrades. The crazy girl then gives him the choice to pick the particular disease he wants to die from, and then he mocks him by saying that rabies would be a fitting disease for him. At the same time, Isao gives Cole two decisions. She can either take her teddy bear and accept that she's a part of the Persilad family, or take her blade and return to the Hellhounds. He then waits for her to make a decision. As she stretches her hand out, he assumes that she's going to pick the teddy bear, but to his surprise, she picks the blade. She then tells him to hold the bear while she takes care of some unfinished business. As Lucille Rains attacks on Doberman, she mocks him for only dodging and not fighting back. Her master tells her to stop fighting because Doberman is luring her away. He then orders her to return to him. As the other hellhounds dive down at him, Lucille's plague beasts quickly attack them. She lets the enemies know that they'll never lay a hand on Isao. As he tells her to remain by his side, she quickly clings to him and promises to protect him at the closest distance possible. As Cole approaches Doberman, he reminds her that it was he who taught her all the techniques she knows. Suddenly, she uses her blade to stab her palm. Isao is confused as to why she's doing this, but Doberman understands what she's doing. Cole calls it the 13 Fang Strikes, where she must stab different muscles, and if she survives 10 breaths, she's free to leave Hellhound. She offers Doberman the blade and tells him to deliver the remaining 12 strikes. He reminds her that no one has ever survived the 13 Fang Strikes before. Isao tells Cole that no one is allowed to damage her body without permission, but she tells him not to interfere in this business. The MC gets frustrated because he can't control her Hellhound personality, but it's better than having to deal with a berserk Lucille. Doberman takes off his mask, telling Cole that she's nothing like her mother. He says that her mother would have stabbed his throat instead of begging others to save her. Upon hearing this, Cole asks if he actually knows her mother. He tells the girl that her mother was his teacher. However, the woman fell in love with an actor and tried running away with her child and the father. Sadly, Doberman was ordered to deal with them. He says that Cole's mother begged to finish stitching her teddy bear before she died. For this act, Cole swears to kill her fellow Hellhound. Seeing that he has successfully provoked her, Doberman whips out his sharp claws, ready to fight. As the lightning cracks through the dark skies, the Hellhounds get ready to fight in a deathmatch. They rush toward each other, fighting with all their strength as their blades clash. As the fight stops, we see that Cole has sustained a lot of slashes to her face. Meanwhile, Doberman tells her that she has become soft. Suddenly, he starts coughing up blood without realizing that his heart has been sliced in half. He is surprised that she managed to master the Heart Abyss Shatter skill. Cole reminds him that he said the one who mastered the skill would be the one to kill him. He finally accepts that this is his destiny. The guy recalls that he used this same technique to kill his master who taught it to him. As he accepts death, he notes that Cole's voice sounds like her mother's own. A key drops from his hand and she picks it up. Meanwhile, Isao assumes that Cole will come crawling back to him. To his surprise, she suddenly jumps off the bridge and he wonders what she's trying to do. Unfortunately, he's unable to find a single trace of the girl. He suddenly notices that bombs have been planted all over the bridge, and we see that the Houndmaster holds the detonation device. As he clicks on it, the MC regrets using all his anti-gravity matrix energy. Cheese dresses up as a traffic warden and stops cars and vehicles from getting onto the bridge for their own safety. Meanwhile, the real traffic warden is tied up and hidden behind a wall. Bobopolya tells the rat that she's rushing to deliver ice cream and they'll all melt if he doesn't let her through. She even offers him a free cone and the filthy rodent falls for it. He says he'll let her through if the ice cream actually tastes good. Inside the van, the other officer is shocked as he sees the chief pulling out a gun. As he asks why, she tells him that there's not a single patrol officer that's a rodent-type demi-human. She concludes that the rat is one of the suspects in the bank robbery and golden nobility heist. As Cheese gets close to the van, the bridge gets destroyed in a huge explosion behind him. About 2 minutes ago, the savage dragon was fighting some annoying pests that were getting on his nerves. On the other hand, Isao feels the dragon won't make it in time to block the explosion. As he grabs Lucille's hand, she assumes that he has seen her as his strongest experiment. Suddenly, he leaps off the bridge with her, and at that moment, the bridge explodes. The Houndmaster watches the explosion from afar and realizes that Doberman held back because he couldn't kill the daughter of the woman he was in love with. His assistant tells him that the guy looked like he was begging to die. However, the Houndmaster feels he deserves it, especially for investigating his dealings with the world's nobility. He tells the girl to notify the Black Palace family of Yorkshire's location and to also tell them that there's a third party involved. Back on the highway, Cheese contacts Isao and asks why he blew up the bridge, but he doesn't get a response from the MC. The rat becomes anxious, wondering what his master could be doing now. Babapolya then watches as he jumps into the river to look for the MC. The other civilians are shocked to see that the rat actually jumped in. On the other hand, the chief officer regrets not being able to catch Cheese in time. The scene switches back to the Houndmaster, who is coughing his life away. He fears that his body will give up if he doesn't become one of the New World's nobility and make it to the Golden Zone. His assistant asks if he believes the technology in the Golden Zone will grant him the immortality he seeks. The old man rages out at her, stating that she's an elf who lives for thousands of years, so she could never understand his pain. She then tells him that she'll kill herself if he should die. He refers to her as Garcia, and tells her that he wants both of them to become immortals together. Suddenly, Isao shows up and tells the old man that he can grant him the immortality he desires. The Houndmaster turns to see who's talking to him, and our boy approaches him while introducing himself. The old man is surprised to see that he survived the blast radius of the bombs. The protagonist then asks for compensation, because the explosion ruined his suit. The scene goes back to 20 minutes ago when our MC jumped off the bridge. As they fall, Lucille notices the bombs by the side of the bridge. As the timer reaches 0, she quickly activates her ability in order to protect her master. She pushes herself to move faster before the explosion reaches them. Luckily, she manages to form a barrier as the blast radius pushes them into the water. She calls her master an idiot for not running away on his own because the explosion wouldn't have been able to kill her. Back in the present, the Houndmaster frantically searches for his guards, but Lucille shows him that they're already being devoured by her beasts. The old man then asks how they were able to track him down. Since his bombs were remote-controlled, it's obvious that someone had to be watching from afar. The Houndmaster then asks Isao what he wants, and our boy tells him that he'll be interrogated and tortured first. After that, he'll take over the Hellhound's assets and also get back at the old man for one of his experiments. The Houndmaster threatens the protagonist, telling him that he should regret surviving the blast because his body is about to be sliced up in a second. However, the old man finds it hard to move his arm. Our boy mocks him and asks what's wrong. The Houndmaster panics, wondering why he can't move his body all of a sudden. He then finds out that he has inhaled some dragon spider venom. The MC also finds out that only 18 tiles in the whole hall weren't rigged with pressure traps. Completely astounded, the Houndmaster asks how he was able to figure that out. Isao tells him how Lucille helped him to figure out the tiles that had no traces of peroxides, and they all lead to the center of the hall. To find out if there are traps near the old man's seat, he asks Lucille to give the old man a hand. The plague experiment attacks the man with her virus beasts. They quickly grab the Houndmaster and begin devouring him, while Garcia watches her precious bar suffer. The old man begs for his life to be spared. The so-called Houndmaster used the Hellhound Association to control every imperial branch, including the Emperor. He also trained assassins to eliminate high officials in every hostile nation. This same man who made the entire West tremble at his name is begging for his life like a good-for-nothing wimp. Isao then asks him about the deal he made with the world nobility. The old man struggles to speak, and as his vision fades away, he tells the MC that he doesn't want to die. Eventually, he loses consciousness. Later, a serum is injected into his body, and he suddenly wakes up. He realizes that his body is looking much younger, and he wonders what's going on. Isao gives him a mirror to take a good look at himself and says that the man has reverted to his prime. The Hound Master is surprised to see that our boy actually has the technology to grant immortality. He then asks why Isao helped him, and the MC tells him that he wants to wipe out the world's nobles and take over Golden City. The Hound Master then thinks of all the information he has on the world nobility. The scene switches to Kuroya Inju, who's bored of torturing all the girls around him. He wonders why no one has come to kill him while he looks at a picture of Cole. Meanwhile, the Hound Master reveals that the assassination of the nobles was just a game that was supposed to be his chance to join them. Isao wonders if the nobles were just too bored or felt too safe with the city heroes. The Hound Master tells him that they kept saying that everything was boring, which he feels is a result of living too long. On the other hand, Isao realizes that Cole had no idea that she was risking her life for a rich people's game. We then see Cole running along rooftops while clutching a key in her hand. She recalls Doberman telling her that he left something in container C-428, which he promised to take her to once they finished their mission. At that time, she had no idea what he meant, but he just told her that the item was important to her. As she rushes to the container, her hair slowly starts changing back to blonde. She also starts forgetting where she's supposed to go. Cole's full personality finally comes back, and she wonders what she's even doing there in the first place. The girl then starts looking around for her master. Once again, she squats down in the rain, feeling very lonely. While the rain drenches her, someone with a familiar voice approaches her. She looks up and sees her master telling her to come home. Feeling excited and relieved, Cole grabs his hand, and they leave together. An hour ago, the Hound Master begged Isao to spare his life. He tries to persuade our boy by saying that Yorkshire is alive and well now, but Isao asks him if he's using the right name for her. With a shaky voice, the man tells him that Yorkshire is her code name in the organization. With an ominous look in his eyes, the MC asks the Hound Master if he thinks that the girl still belongs to him. The man quickly apologizes for making such a grave mistake. The protagonist then asks about his Hellhound organization, and the Hound Master swears that he and the Hellhound will serve Isao. Our boy tells him to show a little sincerity, and the man offers him half of his wealth, which is hidden on the ship. As the MC collects the keys, he tells the man that it's still not enough. The Hound Master offers to have someone deliver the rest of his riches, which are still in Latoma. He then tells the man that he wants Garcia. The Hound Master looks back at the elf but doesn't know what to say. As Isao asks if he agrees, Bar struggles to speak, but he finally comes to terms with the situation. He calls Garcia and tells her to behave well because she now belongs to Isao. The elf falls to her knees, trembling and in disbelief at what Bar just told her. Isao approaches the elf and asks if she'll bargain with him. He then puts his family insignia on her collar, fully branding her as his pet. Dragging her like a dog, he asks if Bar will really watch Garcia become one of his experiments. The Hound Master swears not to go against him even if it breaks his heart. But in his mind, he vows to kill all of the Percival family once he gets the secret to immortality. After hearing him out, the protagonist tells him to go back and reclaim his throne. Bar slowly walks up and sits back down on his throne. While there, the MC tells him to give out his first command. Just as Bar is about to declare something, he suddenly starts bleeding from his nose. He looks at the droplets on his clothes, then wipes his nose, confused by the nosebleed. Isao gives a sinister smile as blood starts to spill out of Bar's eyes. The Hound Master doesn't understand what's happening to his body. The protagonist explains that he injected him with a serum that heals all injuries in carbon-based organisms, but the man still doesn't understand why his body is reacting this way. Our boy then tells him that the serum can only be handled by pure-blooded Percivals. While suffering immense pain, Bar wonders why his new master betrayed him. Then the MC tells him that he doesn't need traitors who sell out those they love. Moments later, Garcia is seen weeping on the dead body of her beloved Bar. Cheese then walks into the hall, feeling sad that everything is already over. Isao tosses the bunch of keys to him and tells the rat to clean up and take the loot with Lucille. He also tells his assistant to keep an eye on the elf because he suspects she's a rare breed. After that, he says he embedded a tracker in Cole's blade, so he's going to track her down. That's how he finds her drenched in the rain, and he takes her back home. Back at the base, our boy realizes that he didn't think things through. Lucille and Cole are in a heated argument about who gets to sleep with their master for the night. They keep dragging him, almost splitting his body in half. Meanwhile, Cheese is watching a show and wondering if he should pity or envy his boss. Eventually, the girls end up sleeping together with Isao, and our boy regrets ever making the two of them. 3 hours ago, while the girls were still arguing over who gets to sleep with Isao, his patience runs out for them. He then yells for them to stop acting like children. He threatens to throw them into the high-risk experimental holding cell if they keep arguing. Cole becomes quiet, and Lucille reminds her master that he promised she could stay with him. Our boy realizes that he can't go back on the promise he made to Lucille. He then agrees for Lucille to stay, which she is very excited about. On the other hand, he tells Cole to sleep on the couch for running off and disobeying him. The poor girl tries to beg her master, but he refuses, leaving her quite depressed. As she takes her things and leaves, Isao tells her to close the door behind her. He also threatens to put Lucille on the couch if she tries anything funny. As the door is shut, the dark plague beast starts clinging tightly to her master. In order to get away, he excuses himself to use the bathroom. While he's there, he wonders how exactly he's going to survive the night. Suddenly, Lucille shows up and stares at him. Our boy freaks out, but the crazy Lucille enjoys every moment of it. Feeling embarrassed, he picks up the shower head and rinses her mouth immediately. He even goes ahead to brush her teeth to get rid of all the electrolytes she just tasted. Moments later, she shows him her white, sparkling teeth. While he tries to smell her breath, she opens her mouth and quickly steals a kiss before he can react. Izao tries to push her away, but he only gets free when she lets go. He then threatens to send her to the couch again if she tries anything else. Feeling tired of the whole thing, our boy tells his crazy experiment to go to sleep. Back in the room, the MC starts to write down a summary of the Hellhound incident. Meanwhile, Lucille is getting tired of waiting for him to come to bed. She asks him how long he plans to keep writing, and he tells her to go to sleep while he wraps up his report. Lucille starts feeling sad, and she tells him that he doesn't have to keep his promise if he hates her so much. She then decides to go sleep outside. Our boy is shocked to see his ultra-high-risk experiment crying. He tries to explain to her that he's really busy, but he decides to go to bed immediately so that she can stop crying. Meanwhile, Lucille is happy that her sinister plan worked. As our boy gets in bed, he gives her permission to hug him, but not to kiss him. He turns over and suddenly sees her shaking in fear. It turns out that she's feeling extremely nervous about going to bed with her master. Lucille recalls those days she was locked up in her cell and how she fantasized about holding her master's hands. She eagerly wanted to kiss him and also sleep together with him. These fantasies helped her to survive every second in her cage. She starts crying like a child because she can't control her instincts that draw her to Izao. The protagonist then comforts her and apologizes for always being harsh to her. He also promises to never lock her away again. Comforted in his arms, Lucille finally falls asleep. Meanwhile, Cheese is enjoying his show on TV when Cole suddenly appears beside him. He sees her sad expression and asks why she's out there. Before she gets the wrong idea, the rat tries to change the channel quickly. He puts on a cartoon and feels more relieved after nearly destroying the remote. Cheese then tells the girl to sit down and watch TV with him. Cole sits down, and they start watching the cartoon, but the whole atmosphere is quite awkward. The rat blames Isao for getting him into this mess and making him miss his show. He then tells Cole not to always listen to her master. He gets into her head, telling her that if she gives up now, Lucille will have the MC all to herself. He tells her to take back her rightful spot as the strongest experiment of her master, and he's looking forward to seeing the chaos that will unfold. Later on, he sneaks an ultra-strength sleeping gas into Izzo's room. He and Cole stay outside with their gas masks as they count down to the gas's release. When the countdown is over, Cheese wishes the girl good luck with her mission. She salutes him back, then he opens the door quietly. As the disaster girl crawls in, Cheese closes the door, feeling glad that he can get back to his show. While he leaves, he wishes his master good luck. Meanwhile, Cole slowly makes her way to the corner of her master's bed. She is shocked to see Lucille tightly cuddling with Izao on the bed. She looks at them with rage in her eyes as she takes off her mask. Suddenly, Lucille thanks her for releasing the sleeping gas. Thanks to the gas, our boy is completely knocked out and can't resist. The disaster girl quickly dives at Lucille, and the two of them get into a heated fight again. Cole tells Lucille not to eat the master, but the dark plague beast lets her know that she's just licking him. Suddenly, Lucille notices that her hand is getting burned, and she recalls this is how Cole defeated her before. She quickly panics because there's no way for her to counter the heat. In order to save herself, she tells Cole that she'll end up hurting her master if she continues. Fearing that she may hurt Isao, the disaster girl calms down. After that, Lucille acknowledges the girl's strength and proposes that they split their master's love evenly. She suggests that they sleep on both sides of Isao. Cole thinks about it briefly and accepts the deals, so the two of them finally come to an agreement. As they lie back down, Lucille watches Cole with hateful eyes and decides to bide her time until she can have Izao's love all to herself. We see a giant mechanical construct standing tall over the city. It is known as the Throne of Percival, and its barrier has completely enveloped the city. With the entire city under Izao's control, his next plan is to reshape it as he sees fit. Final Calamity then offers him a robe so he doesn't catch a cold, and he's happy to see that she's finally behaving well. As she puts it on him, he notices that the robe is unusually heavy. Suddenly, our boy wakes up from his dream, only to see that his two experiments are sleeping with him. He wonders why Cole is suddenly in his bed. To make things worse, the blanket feels a bit damp, and he notices that she peed on it. In his burst of anger, he yells at the two girls to get up immediately. As he reprimands Final Calamity, Lucille stays by the side, laughing at her. The scene goes back to the middle of the night when Lucille used her powers on Cole's bladder. She simply stimulates the girl's bladder, causing her a bit of discomfort. Lucille's plan is to make sure that Izao kicks out Final Calamity so she can finally be the only one to sleep with him. Eventually, Cole pees on herself without realizing it. Back in the present, the MC completely bans Cole from sleeping on the bed ever again. He decides to get a room for her, which means Lucille will be the only one sleeping with him. However, our boy tells the Dark Plague Beast that she'll be getting her own room too. She asks him why because it's not like she wet the bed. He then tells her that she's too heavy and always rolling over him in her sleep. While she feels embarrassed, he also says that he knows what made Cole pee on the bed. Seeing that the two girls are his most important experiments, he wants them to get used to living independently. Feeling very sad, Lucille agrees to his decision. Moments later, she begs the protagonist to change his mind because she can't sleep without him. Cole also clings onto him, begging not to sleep alone as well. As the two girls start throwing a tantrum, Cheese tells them to shut up. He tells them that experiments that cause chaos don't deserve to stay in the living quarters. Isao and the girls are suddenly shocked by the rat's words. He feels glad to see that his assistant is trying to back him up. Suddenly, the filthy rodent whips out a sleeping schedule for the girls so that they can stop fighting. The two girls go over it, while our boy is left too petrified to speak. Lucille then asks about what happens on Sundays. The rat tells her that they'll flip a coin and the winner gets to sleep with their master. Our boy is visibly pissed off, but he decides to properly thank his assistant for the suggestion. He starts chasing Cheese with a gun as he runs away for his life. After a while, Isao completely changes the schedule that Cheese came up with. He threatens that the girls will sleep alone if they continue whining about it. He then confirms with the rat about the property collection of Hellhound. While he goes to check it out, he tells the two girls to stay in the living room. Lucille happily agrees and tells her master that she's super close to Cole now. Meanwhile, Babapolya hears that one of the freighters at the harbor has suddenly vanished. She then asks for every single record of the ship. An old man happily brings the documents, and he proceeds to ask her out on a date, but she doesn't have time for that. He suddenly brings out a ring from his pocket and offers it to her even though it's supposed to be his wife's gift for their 50th anniversary. The police officer then stops him and tells him not to give away such an important gift. Babapolya offers to go to dinner with the old man if he finds any clues about the missing ship. As she leaves, she tells him to give the ring to his wife because she hates jewelry. Over at storage room B21, the MC gets ready to check the loot he got. Cheese then brings out a strange canister from his jacket and tosses it into the water. It causes the water to become electrified, but suddenly, the ship emerges from beneath it. Isao mentions that the freighter was warped into the nightmare nest with the subspace alchemy matrix. He and Cheese then get close enough to board the ship. As they hop on, the rat tells the master about all the gold on the ship, as well as some injured hellhounds he also found. Isao decides he'll brainwash the hellhounds and send them back to the Latoma Empire. Cheese points out that only the containers made of Shantong alloy haven't been opened yet. Upon hearing this, the MC tells him to open all of them. Cheese melts the alloy with his tool, making an entrance in the middle of the container. As cold air seeps out of it, Isao gets an ominous feeling. Suddenly, a large red eye sparks open from the darkness, glaring at him. Our boy is thrown into a panic, and he quickly orders his assistant to get out of the way. Large tentacles stretch out of the container, attacking and destroying everything around. A large, terrifying sea monster then emerges from the container. Cheese then notices the symbol on the beast's pseudopod. Our boy recognizes it as a biohazard mark of his family's ultra-high-risk bioweapons. Meanwhile, Cheese throws some grenades at the monster in a bid to restrain it. It lands on the beast and engulfs its head in a cloud of white smoke. However, as the smoke disperses, the monster remains unaffected. Cheese wonders how the monster absorbed all of the dragon spider venom. Our MC starts shooting the monster with his chemical gun, causing its tentacles to melt. Seeing this, the rodent feels that their problem is solved, but the sea monster suddenly bites off its melting tentacle. Isao is completely bewildered by this. Cheese then proposes that they call in Lucille and Cole to handle the situation. Meanwhile, Cole tells Lucille to stop stealing their master's stuff. Lucille gets angry at her for popping out of nowhere like a ghost. However, Cole offers her an orange and tells her that it tastes really good. Shocked by her gesture, the dark plague beast refuses to eat anything the girl has touched. Regardless, Cole forces it into her mouth. As Lucille tries to strike her, Cole happily says she's her best friend. The dark plague beast then wonders if the girl actually believed her words earlier. Back in the storage room, our protagonist decides to see if the monster is really that dangerous. He then asks Cheese for the whereabouts of Garcia. As the rat answers him, he tells Cheese to handle the situation while he leaves momentarily. The scene switches to Garcia, who is being held by an electric force field. The MC sees her and starts feeling bad about the situation she's been put in. He presses a button to release her restraints, and she falls to the ground. After that, he offers her the antidote to the venom so that she can move her body. Garcia takes a sniff of it, and as she regains control of her body, she whips out a dagger and aims it at her heart. Our boy quickly stops her before she kills herself, and he reminds her that she belongs to him now. As Cheese blasts the sea monster with lasers, the beast quickly adapts to the extreme heat. He quickly runs out of heat melt rounds and sees that he needs to grab something stronger from the armory. Suddenly, Isao returns with Garcia and tells his assistant not to bother with anything else. He then forces the elf to activate her powerful eyes, which immediately hypnotize the monster. The beast slowly falls asleep and crashes to the ground. On the other hand, Cheese wonders if the beast just died like that, but the MC tells him that the monster is asleep. He explains that the elf is a rare emerald elf. After that, Garcia begs the MC to kill her. Our boy tells her not to wager her soul on someone who walked away from her. Later on, the monster is transferred to the high-risk experiment zone. The savage dragon feels it resembles the abyssal eye, but the eye refuses to be compared to that synthetic junk. Looking at the monster, Isao still doesn't understand why they're marked with his family's ultra-high-risk experimental symbol. It's a tag developed by his mom, and he only knows of Lucille receiving the mark. Cheese tries to remind him of what the symbol originally meant before it was rebranded. However, our boy feels he probably missed a few records, but he suddenly remembers what the symbol means, and he says that it originally belonged to the Supreme Sect. His mom was said to have wiped most of them out, but some survivors used unknown technology to vanish into another dimension. This means that there are still some rogue Supreme Alchemists wandering around. Isao regrets killing the Houndmaster, but his assistant tells him that they can use different methods to revive the guy's soul and question him. He then decides to go and interrogate Garcia to find out where the containers came from. Moments later, we see our boy questioning the elf, but she simply begs him to kill her. Cheese wonders what the Houndmaster could have used to make the elf so desperate for him. Isao then orders him to inject Garcia with a truth serum. As the rat clicks the button, the MC reminds him to use the microcapillary mist injector, and then he teases his master for becoming more protective of the ladies. Suddenly, he hears the phone ringing. He picks up the call and tells Isao that the call is for him. The protagonist assumes that the silly rat has done something, but Cheese tells him that it's the patron lady. On the other side of the phone, Lady Kuroya asks our boy if he missed her, but he bluntly tells her no. He then asks what the emergency is, and she reminds him that he's supposed to be giving her updates every day. Meanwhile, Cheese uses the chance to do something sinister. Isao then tells the little girl that the emergency bunny is not meant for casual chit-chat. Suddenly, Garcia makes a loud noise, causing Kuroya to freak out. The little girl gets angry and asks our boy what he's doing, but he just leaves the phone hanging. The protagonist then strangles Cheese for messing with him. After that, he returns to the call and tells Kuroya that the rat was pulling a prank on him. Kuroya tells him that she'll be attending a play with her father next Sunday. Isao then promises to confirm with her before the operation begins. After that, we see Garcia looking completely brain-dead. Seeing that 3 doses of truth serum didn't work, Isao concludes that her true value lies elsewhere. Emerald elves are known for their unique hypnosis magic, which is why they were hunted to near extinction. Over the years, no one has been able to capture one until now. Isao boasts about being the first alchemist in his family to capture an emerald elf. Cheese proposes that they use the Soul Guide interface to brainwash the elf, but our boy tells him there's no need because Cole possesses the Emerald Queen's right eye. Basically, he'll use the Emerald Queen's right eye to force Garcia to obey them. Later on, Isao offers to give Cole a chocolate wafer if she can hypnotize Garcia. The girl quickly rushes to the elf to begin the process. Sadly, after 2 hours, she hasn't been able to trigger the Emerald Queen's eye. Isao then realizes that the eye might be triggered if the girl's emotions come into play. He then asks about Cole's mother, causing the Emerald Queen's eye to activate. As Garcia sees the eyes, she draws closer to Cole. The elf recognizes her queen's eyes and asks why Cole has them. With things going according to plan, Isao tells the girl to give the order. However, Cole suddenly starts crying as the images of her mom and her master flash through her mind. She stares deeply into the elf's eyes, and Garcia gives a sly smile. As the elf returns to Isao, he assumes that his plan has worked. He then tells Garcia to kneel before him and call him master. Surprisingly, she pats his head and tells him not to call mommy by her name. Our boy freaks out at Cole, asking what kind of command she gave the elf. Garcia suddenly grabs him and acts like a mother who abandoned her child for a long time. Cheese, on the other hand, wonders how this escalated into a full-blown play scenario. The protagonist starts beating the elf for thinking she could ever take the place of his great mother. Looking closely at her, she starts to resemble his mother, and he even mistakes the elf for her. Isao quickly covers his eyes and tells the filthy rodent to throw the Dragon Maid type grenade. Cheese alerts him about Cole passing out, and she can't seem to wake up. The MC then remembers that this is a side effect of using the Emerald Queen's eye. He orders Cheese to keep his glasses on and restrain Garcia by all means. Sadly, before Cheese can toss the grenade, Garcia removes his shades, and he immediately passes out on the ground. After that, the elf proceeds to enjoy her family reunion, leaving our boy beyond frustrated. With no other choice, he whips out his gun and threatens to shoot her if she moves again. She ignores his threats, slowly approaching him until she grabs the chemical gun and points it to her head. With tears in her eyes, she tells the MC to pull the trigger if he truly believes that she's not her mom. At that moment, our boy sees the image of his mother again. He falls under her trance, and she takes off his shades. As the elf gives him a big hug, he refuses to believe that she's his mother, but he has sadly fallen for her spell. He hugs her tightly and she tells him to be a good boy. The elf promises to never leave his side again. Meanwhile, Lucille is feeling upset because Cole was chosen for the replacement experiment instead of her. While thinking that Cole is her only competition, Isao and Garcia suddenly walk past her. She flips out on her master, asking why she brought the elf to the living quarters. He then tells her not to speak to his mother in such a manner. Garcia grabs Lucille's face and asks if she's in love with her little Iso. This enrages the Dark Plague Beast because she's the only one who gets to call her master that nickname. As soon as she begins to corrupt Garcia's body, the elf uses her hypnosis to put Lucille to sleep. Isao then places his experiment back on the couch. Suddenly, Garcia knocks over a cup of water as she falls unconscious, causing our boy to panic. Moments later, he cooks up an antidote for the virus infection which is corrupting her body. The elf then tells him to take it easy because she's afraid of needles.